was arrested. He had a camper. I don't know. Yeah. I don't want to be out here too long.
How you doing? You guys are Univision? Let's go to this office. Yeah.
One thing that I do not touch on is no cartels, nothing. No. Yeah, don't put me on the spot, no happen, none of that stuff. Okay. All right, cool. Follow me up here.
All right, guys. So what's happening is Univision wants to do an interview and wants to get more information on what's going on here in El Paso. And they asked Anthony to do an interview here, and that's what we're headed to, a site where they want to know about. So we're heading that way now.
This is gonna block me from going in. What's up, brother? How you doing? Hey, do you know if Johnny is gonna be taking money?
I don't know.
Who's this? This is
Okay, you need to get them out quick. We got one up there in Paso.
okay, cool. Can we go over there with you right now?
I don't want any reporters. You're welcome. I don't want any other reporters over there.
Okay, cool. Never mind. I'll see you in a little bit. No, those are
pictures.
Yeah, with the truck 30 blocks of fucking illegals when they're walking through.
Oh, I see.
I didn't record it. It's on Facebook. Conservative Anthony. Let me go tell the guys real quick.
No, they're ready to do the interview. Ready to go.
Don't take the camera?
Yeah.
Don't take the camera?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Just bring it.
So we're driving up there? What are we
It's right over the hill here, so now we're just walking over. Yeah. We're not sure if they want cameras in here during this, but being cautious. Okay.
No, sí, sí.
No quiero que piensen que estamos...
Invadiendo.
Sí, no.
Sí, se está llevando ahorita una señora de Cuba o Brasil. Cuba. She's what, Cuban? She's from Univision. She's from the interview.
Good thing. I like them kind of people.
I don't like...
See, she's here to give us fair coverage. She understands the socialism that's coming with all these individuals. So that's the reason I agreed to do the coverage here with her.
What are you doing with her? What?
That's why I agreed to do coverage with them, showing them the border. They're from Miami, Florida. So.
Was someone running? We were coming to see someone running.
Walked up here.
Oh,
When we were driving,
Mhm.
there was like someone, a person, running. Like,
She just walked in here. We didn't see her running.
She might have
I
got
saw
tired.
someone running. But
She
it
was crying, pretty upset.
All
I
right.
think she got separated from her group.
She might have got separated, or she might have been escaping from the coyotes down south.
I don't understand that much. But they could have went over that way too.
Yeah.
Oh, there's another one?
No, these guys are with me.
Everybody's suspect.
You guys better start singing out when you come in here at night.
Okay.
Not very.
So a Cuban girl just showed up here?
Yeah, then I showed up
Cuban.
by herself.
Yeah, she just came. So I'm going to explain to you guys how some of this traffic that goes on over here with the train. Okay. So it's really easy.
So it's not just Honduras and Guatemala, El Salvador. It's the guy that the Border Patrol just arrested, just apprehended, was from Cuba.
Usually the border patrol agents are covering that area, correct? So the minute that they're covering that area and a train passes through either this train track or passes by that train track, then the border patrol agents that are over there can no longer see what's on the wall. Right? Following me? Okay. Sometimes what happens in this particular area is we have a caravan of about 70 plus school buses which have been turned into public transportation in Juarez. Essentially what they are is they're really school buses that have been sold to Juarez for public transportation. Now these buses are privately owned, okay? So at 2-3 in the morning, there's no logical explanation of why there's 70 plus buses caravanning down that hill, making their way into this particular area. This neighborhood next to us is known as Anapra, and it's one of the most dangerous, one of the most poorest places in Juarez, okay? Now, 2-3 in the morning, you get a caravan of 70 or more buses, and we know they're buses because buses down here, they put neon purple, neon green, or neon red lights. Really tacky, but that's their thing, you know what I mean? That's how they fix up the buses. They come down the mountain, and then we're just like in awe, watching all the buses, and then they all distribute themselves among this neighborhood. A few minutes later, you get a long train on this second set of train tracks that's back here behind us, long train that just suddenly comes through here and it stops. Okay, there is no yard in this particular area, so why is this large train stopping here? Okay, so the train is now stopped here, and like I told you earlier, Border Patrol agents can no longer see what's coming in through the fence. Okay, therefore the train stops here, and it's orchestrated to the T, bro. A few minutes later, you get a train coming through here, long one, 55, 60 miles an hour. Now Border Patrol really cannot see what's going on at the gate because he's got two trains blocking its view out there, correct? The moment this train is coming through on this train track, that fast, people start running through the border to where the wall ends. What happens is, under this train track further down, there are tunnels, not cartel tunnels. These are water drainage system tunnels. So, Border Patrol is stuck over here. They can't even see what's going on. People are now rushing the border into these tunnels. Okay? Yes. They come in on this side under the train tracks, and they end up down here, what we call the bowl. This is the bowl down here. Now they have the option of running across and up that hill onto the train that is stopped here, or they have the option of continuing under those train tracks because there is another water drainage tunnel right under those train tracks. So people can continue to run on the other side of these train tracks and get picked up by people trafficking them, waiting to pick them up on the other side of the train tracks into the city. Or they can run and jump on the train tracks. Does that mean, are you guys understand? Several times, and there's no logical. I know that the trains have their schedules and all that, but if you just look at the severity of this, why on earth would this train stop out here in the middle of nowhere? And in the middle of the night, 2, 3 in the morning, minutes after we just seen the caravan of 70 plus buses coming through to this neighborhood. I mean, you can call me a conspiracy theorist. I don't mind. But just analyze the situation and just think for yourself. Why? Why out of all places that this train could potentially stop? It could have stopped over there, where it's much more secure, where it's much further away from the fence, which would make more sense. But why would it just stop right here? Why?
Why is that?
And just coincidentally, people are waiting for us to run over. That's just the coincidence. That's the situation that we're in. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't seem to understand this. To me, this is a more than a crisis. We have a congresswoman here from Paso, okay, I have not seen her at any of these challenges trying to meet these challenges head on. I have yet to see her make an appearance out here when these challenges are happening.
And what about the government? The Mexico international government? Was that a
Absolutely a mistake. Absolutely a mistake. I mean, the minute that our government is failing us, it falls on the responsibility of the citizens to take control of the situation. And that is what's happening now on both sides of the aisle. Not just all Democrats, the majority of them, maybe all of them, but we also have some of these individuals on the Republican side. And it's an unfortunate situation that's happening here in El Paso. It's happening in Piedras Negras. It's happening in Tijuana area. And unless we actually stand up and come together as a country, because you could be a Democrat, you could be an independent, a conservative, a liberal, but at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with caring about your country, because these people, you have to think, they don't speak the language, they don't know how to read, they don't know how to write, they come in with zero working skills, they unfortunately are breaking the law. The minute you cross through there, you are now a criminal, because, in my eyes anyways, because if you wanted to come claim asylum, you're going to walk up to the Border Patrol agent and say, you know what, I'm here for asylum. You're not going to try to run the border and try to escape or see what kind of chances you get into escaping into the country. The people that we've been witnessing come through, that I've been able to document, are coming, as they continue coming, they get more aggressive, more defiant towards the guys that are out here patrolling, more defiant towards the Border Patrol agents. And it just goes to show they feel almost entitled. They have some sense of entitlement. You might not be able to see here on camera, but kids get rolled down this hill on a consistent basis. I've witnessed it and documented that myself. Women run up these hills, they get to the top and they don't know how to come back down. You know what they do? They literally sit the babies on their butts and hope the kids slide all the way down the hill on their butt. And I've seen kids roll down. And Border Patrol agents are like, what are you doing? You know? And it's just really unfortunate situation for everybody involved, not just for our country. I feel bad for these victims. At the end of the day, nobody is talking about the United Nations Open Migration Pact. That is the cause of all of this that's happening right now. Prior to last year, late October, early November, we never heard about any caravans, right? It was because of the Migration Pact that was kind of drafted by Enrique Peña Nieto, left for AMLO to sign, which AMLO did sign. Barack Obama did the same thing, left it set for Trump to sign, which Trump said no. Trump knew what could happen if he signed into this migration pact with the United Nations. He said no. Okay? Unfortunately for us, we have weak immigration laws, and we have the United Nations against us, and we have leftist liberal groups and attorney groups from California or even from all over the country going south of the border and illegally practicing law and coaching these individuals as to what to say, how to go about the questions, and how to go about gaming the system to be able to get access into America as an asylum seeker. Now think about this. These people come in. There is a backlog of over, I believe, 900,000 cases now. It's going to take about 2 years for these people to finally go to court. Well, in these 2 years, these are asylum seekers waiting for their court date. They're not legal citizens or residents or none of that. They can't even work. Who do you think is going to be taking care of them? And ultimately, who's the U.S. government? The taxpayers. So all of these people are essentially going to be living for 2 years at least for free until they go to court. And as we all very well know, the majority of them don't go to court. They never show back up.
Anthony, let me ask you about sí, sí, ¿qué te motivó a ser parte de este grupo y de cuándo?
Yo soy independiente. Yo empecé a ver lo que estaba sucediendo aquí en El Paso, Texas, y empecé a buscar a medios a través de mis redes sociales a grupos de gente armada que estuvieran dispuestos a venir a ayudar a esta crisis, a contribuir un poquito de su tiempo, a ayudarle a nuestros patrulleros del Border Patrol que tenemos aquí. Yo he visto y conozco a gente que ha sido, bueno, ya no la conozco, pero conocí a agentes que han sido lastimados aquí en el trabajo, muchos que desafortunadamente hay unos que ya no están con nosotros. Entonces es algo muy triste y además de eso, yo soy un americano primera generación. Yo vi a mi mamá hacer los sacrificios, como aprender el lenguaje, ir a la escuela a educarse en historia básica del país, cosas así. Y entonces cuando yo veo a esta gente que no tiene ningún tipo de ganas de hacer las cosas bien, legalmente, una migración pues legalmente, ¿verdad? Digna y ordenada, me da coraje, porque pues todo el sacrificio que hizo mi mamá, cuando en realidad era algo por lo cual ser orgulloso, y ahora el sueño americano nos lo están destruyendo, estas personas que nomás así, como si nada, están entrando.
Cruzan como si nada.
Sí, es algo muy...
Te voy a preguntar, Anthony, ¿cómo es un día a día en este campamento? y más hoy, luego de este arresto que hubo del líder de ustedes. ¿Cómo ha sido este día?
Ha sido un poco estresante porque nosotros estamos aquí de muy buena fe, y la razón por la cual decidí hacer la entrevista o este reportaje con ustedes es por la situación que me explicó su productora. Entonces, yo sé que todavía hay buenas personas en los medios, y estoy tomando yo una chance en que ustedes hagan un buen reporte y sean justos. Ha sido muy feo, nos han atacado como nunca he sido atacado yo personalmente. Me han hecho lo que le llaman docs, que me sacan toda mi información, mi seguro social, mi dirección, todo ha sido ya publicado en el internet. Gente mandándonos amenazas, mis fotos circulando en grupos de odio en Facebook, diciendo que van a decapitar, que van a cortar los dedos. O sea, wow, sí, me pusieron en una lista de terrorista, Southern Poverty League, SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center. They put me on a terrorist list. Entonces, ahora una persona que quiere a su país y quiere hacer las cosas bien, es a lo que consideramos un terrorista, porque una persona quiere defender la nación y quiere defender las fronteras para que todos disfrutemos de un país en paz. Me consideran un terrorista, es algo increíble para mí.
Anthony, ¿tú consideras que existe una mala interpretación de las labores que ustedes están haciendo aquí para defender y para asegurar, para resguardar la frontera?
Sí, nos están tratando de manchar la imagen. Yo soy solamente un reportero, y gracias a Dios, a través del alcance que tengo en las redes sociales, pude contactarme, estuve en contacto con estos patriotas, están muy interesados en venir a asistir y ayudar, y estos señores son veteranos de guerra, que esto es a lo que ellos se dedican, es lo que han sabido ellos toda su vida. Ellos, desde que tomaron ese juramento a la bandera y a este país, no paran, porque ellos simplemente están retirados y son veteranos. Ese juramento que ellos hicieron es de por vida, y le tengo mucho agradecimiento a estas personas por estar aquí. Ya llevan más de 64 días porque han sacrificado sin sus familiares, sin sus esposas, sin sus hijos, todo por la soberanía de esta nación. O sea, nadie está acá afuera tratando de ser el superhéroe. Lo único que ellos están tratando de hacer es asegurar nuestra nación y ayudar a gentes que tanto lo necesitan.
El lunes pasado se hace viral este video, el lunes o el martes, cuando más de 300 personas se quedan por aquí. Ustedes deciden salir en vivo. Cuéntame qué pasó en ese momento, qué estaba pasando con la gente.
Ese es uno de los videos. Yo he estado acá presente cuando han pasado cientos de ellos, no nomás 300. Y créeme que se siente como estar Nunca he estado en España cuando sueltan los toros, pero si yo pudiera decirte, eso es lo que se siente, eso es lo que se siente. De ver cientos de personas corriendo hacia ti, y yo que ando yo no estoy armado, yo no cargo arma, mi arma es mi cámara y es todo. Entonces cuando veo yo eso, wow, ¿dónde las van a poner todas estas personas? Porque estas personas no están siendo prosecuted ante la ley, están quebrando la ley. Y muchos mexicanos me dicen, ay, el nopal en la frente, ¿cómo puede ser contra tu...? No, discúlpame, estas personas no son mexicanas. Hemos vivido aquí en Sevilla, Anapra, años, y nunca hemos tenido estas barbaridades, nunca hemos tenido ningún tipo de problema con ellos. Estas personas están siendo movidas a través de las Naciones Unidas. Llegan con tenis nuevos, llegan con iPhones, llegan a veces con Gucci shoes, llegan con chamarras de piel, hombres poniendo camisetitas de niños en el piso para no mancharse los pantalones, en lo que se sientan, en lo que se aplastan para esperar a la Border Patrol. Están cortando los métodos legales y nomás entrando por aquí, por las leyes de inmigración tan débiles que tenemos. las están exploitando, y tenemos abogados de California y de grupos izquierdistas que están yendo a México a aconsejar a las personas cómo venirse y ganar el pasaje a los Estados Unidos sin haber hecho ningún tipo de sacrificio.
Te voy a preguntar un poco del campamento. Y cuéntanos un poco cómo funciona, cómo se duerme, si se puede dormir, cuántas personas vienen. Sé que de pronto no pueden decir cifras, pero cómo es un día en el campamento, cómo funciona, cómo se protegen ustedes en la noche cuando ya cae el sol aquí.
Tenemos a gente despierta durante el día, mínima gente durante el día. Llegan muchos voluntarios de diferentes condados, muchos voluntarios de Sunland Park, Santa Teresa, del Paso, de condados alrededor de aquí del Paso. Llegan ellos aquí durante el día, que es cuando les da oportunidad a muchos de los muchachos que se la pasan despiertos toda la noche vigilando. Entonces es la hora en la cual ellos pueden dormir. De todas maneras, su siesta o las horas que duermen se interrumpen inmediatamente, por lo cual están pasando todo el día. No hay un break, no hay una hora que digas, oh, ahorita me voy a dormir un rato. No, esto es consistentemente todo el día, vienen y no hay fin.
No hay un fin. Anthony, ¿tú crees que estuve reunido con el senador Ted Cruz ahora en marzo, en Washington, ¿verdad? Y hablamos de este tema? Yo le pregunté al senador, ¿va a haber una reforma migratoria o al menos un cambio a las leyes migratorias? Y me respondió, este Congreso está dedicado solamente a investigar al presidente Trump y a tratar de sacar al presidente Trump. Correcto. ¿Tú sientes lo mismo?
Absolutamente. Tenemos, como yo le digo, la congresista Verónica Escobar, no nos vamos muy lejos, está dobladísima en tratar de penalizar al presidente, de sacarlo de la oficina, en lugar de ella estar preocupada por sus ciudadanos, por sus constituyentes. Esta señora tiene más voz para los ilegales que para cualquier ciudadano. Y o sea, a mí me dio pena por ella, pena por mi ciudad, que ayer esta señora la tuvieron en noche de militar en uno de los estadios de béisbol a tirar la primera pelota. Me dio tanta vergüenza que esta señora es tan antiamericana, que ella fuera la primera persona en la que pensaron en llevar allá a aventar la primera, the first speech for our troops. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. Sí, mejor ahorita ya.
Ok, lo que tú consideres que nos puede enseñar. O caminemos un poco, ¿te parece? Yo creo que es así, ¿no? Pero aquí donde no hay piedra. Donde no hay piedra, donde estamos por aquí, para que no se te mueva mucho. Vete por aquí, de allá para acá. De allá, pero véngase más para acá. ¿Sabes qué me interesa? Hablar, porque mucho me interesa esta manera. Y la colaboración. ¿Me dices cuándo, papi? Ok. Anthony, ¿qué tan cercana es la colaboración con la patrulla de protección?
Sea lo que le digan o lo que estén poniendo en Border Patrol, nosotros llevamos una relación excelente con los señores que están trabajando, patrullando esta área. Ellos nos aprecian a los muchachos, no a mí, yo solo estoy acá reportando. Yo tuve el placer, como le digo, de contactar a estas personas y ellos dijeron que sí, que vendrían. Entonces, este grupo United Constitutional Patriots han hecho un trabajo fenomenal, y sea lo que sea, el Twitter oficial de la patrulla fronteriza, sea lo que diga, yo no sé quién corra esa cuenta, pero definitivamente yo pienso que esa persona no anda acá afuera con nosotros porque no estarían poniendo que no soportan lo que estamos haciendo nosotros. Vi un tweet, creo que por ahí hace unas cuantas horas, que dijeron que ellos no aprueban de que está aquí afuera. Yo pienso que es diferente a lo que está diciendo la persona que puso eso, porque Yo he visto y está documentado cómo trabajan estos hombres, estos caballeros con el Border Patrol. No han tenido ninguna queja de nadie, nadie se ha lastimado, nadie no ha visto ningún tipo de altercación ni nada. Y hay respeto entre ambos equipos, se respetan el uno al otro y coordinan cuando están pasando ilegales de los dos lados.
Ustedes tienen una línea directa de comunicación con la gente que ustedes guardan. ¿Hay un teléfono?
Ellos, sí, ellos.
Ellos tienen.
Sí, yo estoy aquí solamente reportando y documentando igual que ustedes, pero yo he tenido la oportunidad de estar acá con ellos día y noche. Yo no he tenido ni cargo arma, como le digo, entonces yo no he podido detener a nadie, pero yo he tenido la oportunidad de verlo primeramente.
Te voy a preguntar un par de cosas. Vecinos de aquí de San Juan nos indicaron que en Nuevo México es ilegal portar armas. ¿Es cierto eso o no está registrado?
Yo no estoy muy identificado no entiendo a veces, yo siento que nomás se quejan por el lado político en el que ellos caen, pero por lo general, yo cuando he platicado con los residentes de esta área, soportan al presidente, quieren el muro, o sea, por decir, tú quieres la área donde tú vives segura, claro, y ellos también en cualquier oportunidad, si les podrían poner aquí un muro, ellos estarían mucho más contentos, porque aquí viven sus familias, o sea, nadie quiere a criminales pasando frente de su casa. Entonces yo pienso que las personas que a lo mejor te pudieron haber dicho, ay, no se pueden cargar armas o no los queremos aquí, es gente desafortunadamente que no está suficientemente informada para hacer ese tipo de pensamiento.
¿Portan armas los miembros del patrón?
Sí, ellos portan armas.
¿Y eso es para protección personal? ¿Han tenido que usarlo en algún momento?
Nunca la han tenido que usar, nunca se le ha apuntado los rifles. De lo que yo he visto y documentado, nunca se ha tenido que amenazar o hacer a alguien o a intimidar a alguien con la pistola. No, nunca pasa. No.
Cuando llegaron los agentes del FBI hoy a este lugar, ¿cómo se sintieron?
Yo no estaba aquí. Yo llegué un cuanto tiempo después, pero al fin del día este señor, sea lo que quieran decir, lo que lo quieran desacreditar, los medios locales lo quieren destruir, y yo sé por qué, están comprados todos con este plan, y desafortunadamente el señor, nadie es perfecto, y no le están dando la oportunidad al señor ni de defenderse. El señor tiene todo su corazón invertido aquí, no le ha hecho ningún daño a nadie, no ha hecho ningún tipo de agresión hacia nadie. Yo al señor que fue arrestado hoy, solamente lo he visto yo con un walkie-talkie, porque él es como la cabeza de la operación aquí. Él no anda acá afuera con el resto de los muchachos que andan armados. Las veces que yo he andado aquí con ellos, el señor siempre se sienta en el RV y siempre está él con los radios en sintonía, ya sea con la Border Patrol o con otros contactos con los cuales trabaja.
¿Ustedes anticipan que esta sea una noche tan activa como las últimas? El fin de semana vi uno de sus videos que decían que ni los coyotes respetaban los días santos, era activo todo el tiempo.
Todo el tiempo.
¿Qué esperan esta noche?
Lo mismo de siempre. Los fines de semana son los días que parecen ser más traficados. Van a seguir viniendo. Y desafortunadamente hoy es bastante peligroso para ambos que estemos aquí, porque pues, falta el líder. Sí, y es el que hace todo corra correctamente. Entonces, a lo lo mejor ya cuando él regrese nos podríamos estar acá afuera y les podría enseñar todo el movimiento, pero por hoy todo esto va a seguir. Esto va a seguir, no va a parar hasta que la gente del Congreso decida que esto sea una crisis.
Esa era mi última pregunta. Este movimiento, sé que no es único, hay un movimiento similares en Arizona, hay movimientos similares también en Texas, en California. ¿Tú crees que esto se multiplique y que pueda verse en otros lugares?
Que llegue más gente a asistir al
grupo.
Sí, correcto. Estoy en contacto yo con un grupo en Arizona. Se están manifestando los residentes de Arizona en números grandes, gracias a Dios. Espero que el resto de la nación, viendo a esa gente movilizándose, llegando a la frontera, ayudándose el uno al otro, yo espero que motive al resto del país, porque si usted se pone a estudiar la historia, hay un señor por el nombre de Simón se apellida con B, ahorita le digo el nombre, hizo una invasión similar a lo que nos está pasando ahorita, y no enseñan en las escuelas tácticas o historia exacta cómo ha pasado y cómo ha cambiado el mundo. Entonces, they're not teaching proper history, ya no están enseñando historia propia en las escuelas, entonces la gente no alcanza a reconocer lo que está pasando. Pero esta es una invasión, está orquestada por las Naciones Unidas, y por mí que cierren la frontera. Tenemos que cerrar la frontera. Nuestra soberanía y seguridad vale más que la ganancia personal de cualquier político, de cualquier businessman que esté aquí en la frontera.
Finalmente, sé que vamos a estar hablando, Anthony, dame tu apellido y Anthony Agüero.
Sí.
Agüero,
Sí.
Anthony Agüero, perfecto.
Sí.
Let's just do a quick question in English, because we may have to do this in English for also another video we have. Tell us a little bit about what happened today after the leader of this camp, at least, was taken by the FBI. What has a change of the operation will continue as the status quo? What will happen here?
Okay, the operation will not change. We had the trained police come out here and talk to the guys, and it's looking like they might want them away from the train tracks. That is not going to stop these gentlemen. It's already been discussed. They're only going to move to the other side onto private property. So essentially what they will be doing...
Stop that right now. Come in here and they talk to me.
All right.
In your experience, when do people start coming? Around now or later?
This is the first night I've been out here. I'm with you. Anthony said to come out to interview him. I said, okay. I'm in here just as curious as you guys.
Gotcha.
But from watching Anthony's videos, it's
any time of the day.
It's like it sounds like, from what I'm gathering from his videos and what he's said, is once the people are congregated, those trains stop, and then that's when all the action begins. Because those trains are key to getting a majority of them across, apparently, from what Anthony has told us.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's throughout the evening, plenty of times, from what I understand. I don't know if you saw Anthony's video with he didn't know if it was a cartel or the coyote that were flying the drones over, doing scouting before the people would cross. So there was 2 drones. He actually recorded them flying over this way to see if it was clear. And then they kind of they went back, and then of course some action took place.
Wow.
So Anthony is he's the frontier of this investigation, or this enlightenment, if you will, this showing what's going on. But this is a weak spot here, a very weak spot.
I was shocked the gap that is there. The gap is wide open.
It's wide open. It is, and then and of course throughout the border in El Paso, there's a lot of little gaps as well, very small gaps, but. From what I understand, some of those are there intentionally for funneling to people, get them in to go to the same location so they don't have to patrol the entire perimeter or the gate of the. You know, it's a shame what's happening. I mean, those countries that the people, nobody wants to leave their home.
Right.
You know, and I don't know who's asking them to come or who's paying them to come or if these people are genuinely want to come. But as Anthony said, a lot of the people have nice clothes. They don't look like they've walked or they're obviously being bussed.
Did they look like showered beforehand? Because
Yeah.
like in South Texas, you
He
can.
said that they just come with a shower.
Yeah, they're fresh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, because in South Texas, you see the difference.
Yeah.
Those that are, I found women even with makeup on and everything else.
Sure,
Like they just
sure.
shower.
You know, and it's understandable. I mean, they want to live in a country that provides opportunity. That's fantastic. I think the problem is the way they're doing it, the way it's coming about. It's just flooding in different areas.
You guys want to head on out to let's head on out to the bridge.
Yeah.
That's where we're going to catch plenty of action too.
Okay.
But we won't be in as much danger as we are here. I don't see the drones. The other night they fly drones. Okay, so you see the antenna that is red and white straight ahead of us?
Yeah.
Okay. The drone was being flown directly over that antenna 2 nights ago. Then there was another drone directly in front of that one, more or less where that light, that street light is at right there, straight ahead of us, directly higher above. And if you know anything about aviation or drones, if the red light is flashing on the right side of the screen, if you're looking straight and the drone is looking at me and it's taking video of me, the red light will be on my right hand side and the green light will be on the left hand side. Okay? Which you need to believe that they were recording down this way. And it's the same for aviation and it's the same for when you're for boats. Anytime they're coming straight at you, they're looking at you, the red light will be on the right and the green light will be on the left. So that's how they were flashing directly at us. So yeah, they're flying drones, and I believe one was being flown out of the United States side, and the other one seemed to be really careful not to cross the fence. It was just flying directly above it, and all that's on document as well.
Let me say bye to the gentleman right here. What is it?
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Be careful.
Okay, so what you guys are listening to right now, you guys hear that loudspeaker? What's up?
Right here.
He was telling me that the last papers is like, why they do that before they're gonna make it push pushing people in, and also like fire, like fogata around. And we were coming out, there was 2 fogatas on the side, in the Mexican side. That's said that they do that when they're gonna make it push.
So the fires are apparently for the heat sensors. So I guess they can kind of like blend in.
Okay.
So the heat will take
DVA.
Yeah. And that's the tactic, right? You distract here and then you send around this way. It's typical. Yeah. It's. I mean, they've got this science. It's a science. You know, they have it really figured out. All right, for you guys watching, we're gonna go to another location that Anthony is gonna take Univision to show them. I guess where there's gonna be people where they cross often. But Univision, I believe they flew in from Florida for this interview. I don't know when the interview will be aired. But they're getting a pretty in-depth interview with Anthony to find out everything that he's experienced out here. This is my first and probably only time I'm going to come out here. I was invited by Anthony. We were having dinner discussing the gentleman that got arrested earlier today, that apparently had a felony, and they're saying that he had a felony and that he was caught carrying a firearm, which is obviously against the law. Once you have a felony, you can't have a firearm. So these gentlemen here are in the same group, and Anthony was concerned, rightfully, that the FBI might be targeting him and a few other gentlemen here, because I don't know for sure. I don't know if they have weapons here. They might not, for their own protection, I'm sure, but I don't know the situation out here that well, and I don't want to assume either. So at this point, as Anthony was mentioning to Univision, is he's actually on a terror list now. I'm not too sure why, but there's an organization. I gotta ask Anthony again what organization that is. SPLC, I believe, has him actually listed as a terrorist. I don't quite understand. Being press, because he does have an official press badge, international press. So based on the freedom of America, United States, he's allowed to do what he's doing. He's essentially an investigative reporter that is putting himself on the line to just document what's happening. If you talk to Anthony, he tells you that he's very compassionate and concerned about the women and children, but the men, he said, he doesn't understand the men part of it. The idea is, okay, they want to come over here for a better life, and we all understand that. But there's not, the numbers of women and children are not in ratio with the number of men. There's a lot of men, and if you saw the beginning of this live stream, you would have seen the Border Patrol was arresting a gentleman here that he just walked right up to the camp, and he was from Cuba. So the idea that these are Mexicans coming is incorrect. The large numbers, and if you do look at the stats on the Border Patrol website, it does show that the far majority of individuals who are coming across the border now are from the Northern Triangle in Central America, of course, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. It's not Mexicans. They're not coming over as much. And the reason is because Mexicans will get deported right away. They cannot claim asylum over here as easy as those from Central America. And so that's what they do. They're allowed to come over here, and then they claim asylum, and of course they get processed and all that good stuff.
What's up, man? How you doing?
But yeah, that's what's going on, and like I said,
I'm retired Philly police.
as I was mentioning about about Anthony being on a list for terrorists, it's not the federal government that has him on a list. It's an organization that considering him a terrorist of some sort. But I don't understand what the terror is there. Maybe we'll do some investigating and call to find out why exactly that's designated as a terrorist. Because it doesn't fit the definition of what a terrorist is. Terrorist usually causes damage in physical damage, death and threats and stuff like that. Another note, when I was talking to Anthony earlier today, I did a short interview with him to find out more about what the situation was concerning the gentleman who got arrested today. Apparently the gentleman had a felony many years ago, and they're just trying to take advantage of the situation to arrest him. But I don't know. I can't confirm that at all. But we're going to head out to another location. We're going to another location, Anthony?
Yes.
All right, we're going to go to another location. With Univision is going to follow. And Stay tuned and see if you guys can stay connected while we're driving.
Did you bring a charger? Or you can plug in your phone.
Yeah, I got my charger here.
Yeah, I didn't want to just go straight in for U-turn and get a clear shot of everything over there.
Yeah, right. All right, we're gonna. How far are we going from this location?
We are going to a location that is being currently exploited, and it is actually maybe like 12 minutes from here.
Okay. And this is across from Anapra, right? Is that Anapra over there?
That's Anapra over there at a distance. We're about to pass right now.
So where we're going is where they do a lot of crossing.
It's been
Active.
it's been really active scene since yesterday. It's unfortunate what's happening because that particular area that we are heading over to right now, it's completely open and unprotected because all of our Border Patrol agents are at the detention facilities right now. All of them.
And you got that information of an agent, somebody.
I have sources within. I have intel inside the Border Patrol agency, and we are going to an area that there is nobody covering. There's not one agent protecting a large area where there's people coming in. Matter of fact, some of y'all might have seen the footage earlier. Where people are just running through the gate, and the only thing that's standing between them and America is a master lock that you probably had better ones in high school for your gym gear.
Is that the spot we're headed now?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you saw Anthony's video earlier today, you would have seen where the Border Patrol came, and there was just a chain link fence that was bent, and it was open, and yeah, there was a couple of, I would say about 5 to 8 immigrants that were trying to get across, and they were waiting there so Border Patrol can apprehend them and, of course, take them on to either file for the asylum or process them in some capacity. But you noticed in that video that Anthony was showing the big barrier that's this guy here, this big portion here, the actual gate was wide open, and from what we understand, what the Border Patrol told him was that the reason it was open is because the motor on the fence was broken, and it's so heavy that the Border Patrol agents cannot close it themselves. So the gate is vulnerable. It's a path you can just walk right through. And Anthony was displaying how there was just a little padlock on the fence, but it wasn't. The only thing it was holding back was vehicles, but people could slip right through if they wanted to, which I'm sure many have, and that's where he's going to take us now to, because he's guessing that there's going to be a bunch. But the fact that the Border Patrol, somebody let him know that the Border Patrol agents are not out here tonight. They are not on the fence where they usually are, because they have to go back. They were pulled back to do processing, because there's so many immigrants that they don't have enough manpower to actually be on patrol. So what happens is, because there's so many, the huge influx of migrants, they have to be pulled off of their duty, assigned duty stations, to come back and actually, as Anthony says it, they babysit the migrants because they can't be out in the field, which is where they're supposed to be. So it's interesting to see the tactic now. What the Border Patrol is having to do, because they don't have the manpower or womanpower. They don't have the staff to actually do their jobs. I mean, it's an interesting scenario that's taking place now. From what I understand, and I can't confirm this, but what I understand during my interview earlier, off-camera interview with Anthony, was the immigrants, they're being sent to what is called the red zones, and the red zones are places where the Democrats are not as strong as they should be. They feel they should be. So the theory is, at least from Anthony's perspective and some others who they've discussed with, is that they want to send the immigrants to the cities that are more red to either try to balance that population, because if you think about it from a future standpoint, their offspring will be American citizens, and odds are they will be Democratic voters if tradition holds true to what we've seen. So it's not a short-term strategy, according to this theory. It's a long-term strategy. It's a long-term idea. But again, I can't confirm. It's a theory that, I mean, if you think about it, you base it on history and the way it's been going, that theory very well may be factual. But again, you can't confirm that. But you can't deny it either. So it's interesting what's happening. Again, talking to Anthony earlier today, he mentioned to me that Univision was going to be interviewing him and asked if I was interested in coming out to take a look. And of course, I am an independent. I want to know what's going on all areas of our city and our country, because I'm a concerned citizen concerning the future of this country for my son and for, I'm sure, all of your children. So at least we have an idea of what is going on and what to expect. We don't know for sure what the future holds in regards to these new immigrants. We don't know what's going to happen. We actually don't know what's going to happen with their status here. If they are granted asylum, is that a permanent asylum? When you look at the situation with Syria, we had refugees come from Syria. Will we be sending those refugees back once their country is stabilized, which it's, from what I understand, is not there yet, but it very well may be in the next year or so? Will our government send them back? Is this a permanent asylum status for these immigrants, or is it temporary? And if it's permanent, how do we incorporate them into our society? Do they have a path to citizenship? Do they have a path to legal status? Do their children, since the DACA program has ended, meaning that there's no further additions to the DACA program that Obama put in place, what happens to those individuals, the new children that are being born from the immigrants? Are they going to be considered American citizens, or are they going to be are they going to have restricted access to their benefits and what have you? So it's going to be an interesting development as we go forward, because I don't think there's a person that I've met that I know who disagrees with the idea, and who has said who doesn't deny that people do want to live we're in a country where there's the ability to prosper. I think we all agree with that. But I think where the problem lies is at what expense to our law, at what expense to our standard of living in regards to actual, being lawful, following the statutes that our country has established. We just saw, what was it, yesterday, day before, a whole coliseum full of immigrants getting their citizenship, which is fantastic, because that's what America's about. Coming to the country, becoming a citizen, getting education, contributing to society and the future of the country. I think we all agree that that's what America's, what's great about America. But what I think ultimately is happening here is Americans on the right are seeing the situation as a group of people who are circumventing the standards we have in place, and it's essentially a slap in the face to those who are trying to become American citizens and are actually becoming American citizens by following the process. Now, the question remains, and it's really not a clear definition that I've been able to discover or identify, and maybe somebody can help identify how people from Guatemala, the Northern Triangle countries, how can they claim asylum when you look at the asylum laws, international asylum laws? It doesn't seem clear as to why they qualify for asylum. I've heard both sides of the story, and because I like to evaluate things thoroughly, looking at the international asylum laws, it doesn't seem to add up. Now, when you look at the individuals that are being brought here, a lot of them will tell you that they're in the middle of a crime zone area in the country. But my question is, maybe the Border Patrol, and along their lines of questioning, when they actually do ask, maybe my question is, how do we know that they're in a part of the country that is quote unquote war zone? I mean, like, for example, take the idea of here in El Paso. Back in the 90s, we had a lot of gang violence, and I'm from the northeast side, so yes, I experienced a lot of gang violence and such. But people on the west side didn't have that. So if you travel today to, say, Denver or Washington, and say I'm from El Paso, they don't. And I said, yeah, we had a lot of violence of gangs. Are they going to say, hey, all of El Paso is full of gang violence? Or are they going to ask, well, what part of El Paso is the gang violence from? Right? So same with these individuals coming down here. Because I do know people travel to Guatemala, El Salvador. They travel to the tourist areas, and they come back alive. So I don't know if there's a certain region of these countries where these individuals are coming from. And I don't know if that is the case. If they are from these violent areas, are the violent areas, are they able to prove they're from the violent areas? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe somebody watching might know. But until then, they're going to keep coming here to America because we're so prosperous. And I get it. I absolutely understand it. But what I don't understand is why they're allowed to be processed with no thorough investigating, and I don't even know if it's possible for them to identify what part of the particular neighborhood they're from in those countries. So we're stuck with a situation where we have some immigrants that are coming, and our Border Patrol is just being told to allow them in. Our Border Patrol are being told to just go ahead and put them in a shelter, and we'll process them because it's taking so long, because there's so many of them. and that's where we stand. We stand at that situation. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna plug in the charger here.
I think we got PD trying to, or BP maybe, I'm not sure.
Hang on, guys. We're going to, where are we going, Anthony? Anthony's here.
There's another spot that is completely wide open. They literally have 0 Border Patrol agents on the line because they are all being used to, they're pretty much being used as correctional officers almost. It's not much different than what a correctional officer does. They're essentially just babysitting their prisoners, making sure they're eating. I have some friends of mine that are working within the Border Patrol agent that send me pictures of hundreds of ramen noodles that they are serving on a daily basis. They send me pictures of all the cups while he's filling up all of the cups for these people and passing them out. And we're short-staffed at the border, and it seems like these Democrats feel that it's more important for these people to be babysitting and housing and accommodating these immigrants or illegals rather than actually have our agents doing what they signed up to do, and that's to protect our country.
Now, you're talking to some agents. You actually know some now after all the work you've done. What do you say? What do you think what would you say the consensus is? Their opinion. I know they cannot talk to the media.
Yeah.
On camera, and they can't give official reports or official statements. But just on the side, what would you say the consensus is in regards to this situation? How do they feel about what they're doing or being told to do? What do you say? What are they saying to you about how they feel?
They're honestly, from all of the guys that I talk to, and from what I've been talking to them on a daily basis since I've been doing this, they're just tired of it, bro. They're just genuinely, they're tired of it. And this is from directly from their mouth. It's a slap in the face. Directly from the mouth of Border Patrol agents telling me it's a slap in the face. Because they didn't sign up for this. They took an oath to protect our country, not to be, they're the Border Patrol, not Uber Patrol. And unfortunately, that's the sentiment that they're getting. They feel like they're just an Uber ride for these people. And
now, Anthony, let me ask you something. I've seen other people demonize you, have concerns about what you're doing. They're saying, essentially calling you a racist and calling people who are concerned about the immigrants. They call it, they're racists, etc. My question is the children. The children are guiltless here.
right,
The children didn't get asked by their parents if they want to come.
right.
The children are forced to come, either by parents or by a coyote or by a trafficker. And you've experienced quite a few children out here. What do you see? What kind of look in their eyes, or what are you gathering that they're thinking or feeling, especially the young ones, like the 3 or 4 year olds? What is your opinion about what is going on? How do they look? How do they behave? Have you seen children that are clearly not part of the family that are being trafficked?
They look scared, bro. And they look scared. And as well, any kid that age, or even myself as a grown man, it's kind of hard not to feel a little uneasy about the whole situation. But these kids, they're coming over sick. A lot of them, you could hear their little noses congested with boogers and phlegm and coughing up a storm. And it's really, it makes you think, do these parents genuinely legit care about these kids, or because they're putting them through such harsh conditions, to the point where they are literally rolling them down the hill. Once they get into that particular area, Anapra, I've witnessed women run up the hill, and when they get to the top of the hill and they're at the train track and they see it's too slim or too much of a inclination, they sit the kids on their butt and tell them to just scoot down. And I've seen kids roll down off of that, and it's been documented. And it's like, do you really care about what's happening to your kid? I've seen some people run across the border and just let go of the kid's hand because the kid is holding them back. They leave the kid to just run for himself, and the kid's just struggling to keep up with this mass group of illegals.
So that would you assume that those particular children are not with a family if they're willing to let their children's hand go?
And even some that don't let go of them. I've seen some cases where people are being apprehended, and the guys, just to make sure they're not getting in trouble, they grab these little kids stern from their wrist. And I'm like, wow, like, and I can't tell them nothing. I can't, hey, don't hold the kid's arm like that, or I can't tell them anything like that, you know?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're out here doing the best that we can to ensure that these people are at least getting processed and vetted, because it makes no sense for us to be allowing just anybody to come in. The way I see it, the people that are coming out here trying to run from Border Patrol, those potentially are people that don't have the best intentions. They should not be even allowed to qualify for asylum seeking, because they're essentially trying, it's like flipping a quarter. They're either going to get caught or they're not. But they'd rather take that chance. They'd rather take that chance of not getting caught and see if they can sneak in past Border Patrol, rather than turn themselves in and say, you know what, I'm here for asylum. Open your doors to me. Please welcome me. I need your help. No, instead you get people over here that feel entitlement, that are coming over here with a chip on their shoulder, because I've seen it. That they're a little more aggressive than prior groups, and as more people continue to come, we've noticed that they are a little more standoffish. They're a lot more disrespectful, and I mean, if you're coming to a country that you want to claim asylum in, you gotta humble yourself and not come in here like we owe you anything. You should come over here and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I had no other option, I'm breaking the law. But please take me in, and surrender yourself to an agent. But these people are literally trying to run away from the agents, trying to get away from them so that they can sneak past them or hide their way out until without even checking in at the door. These people want to come in without checking in at the door.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
So let's see. When we look at the immigrants that are coming in, the ones that are trying to, I mean, they're clearly just, a lot of them truly, honestly want to have a better way of life.
We all do. We all do.
Yeah. If you can, you know what we also hear is people constantly say, do it the right way, do it the right way. But we know there's no legal way for them to do it the right way. There's only 4 ways to do it, right? You got marriage to an American citizen. You got a marriage to an American citizen. You've got what else do you have? You have getting married. You have getting asylum. You have visa lottery, and then whatever the 4th one is, I don't remember. But there's only 4 ways to come into the United States legally.
Right.
Okay. So if a person from a country wants to come in and wants to be a citizen from Guatemala, or they just want to come in and try to make some money and send back home, is that necessarily a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing. Everybody's entitled to a better life. Everybody is, okay? But there's laws. There's laws. And why are these people more special than Mexicans? I've known Mexicans that have lived in Juarez after Juarez being one of the most dangerous cities in the world, and they've toughed it out and they've survived out there, and they're waiting on doing everything by the book. Why do these people get a free pass and oh, okay, no, let's roll out the carpet for them? Why? Is there a darker agenda here? What is the purpose of that? When you're claiming asylum, you're supposed to go. You don't get to choose where you get asylum to begin with. Mexico is the safest country for them. Look at this. Mexico is the safest country after Jesus Christ. Mexico is the safest country that they hit. That's the first safe country that they're able to get to after escaping, or so they claim they're escaping. And they don't get to choose. Mexico should be the country to grant them that, and Mexico is granting them that, but they want more. And they want to come over here to the United States, and they know they can come over here because of the weak immigration laws. And if they wanted to do things legally, they would take their time to file their paperwork, maybe get a job in Mexico, and work like Mexicans do. Mexicans are down there working hard, paying their bills, surviving, and still they're filing their paperwork to come over here legit. You don't see no Mexicans here crying at the border, begging like dogs for asylum. You don't. Most of these people coming over, when people say, "Ay, el nopalote, you're going against your people." No, sir. I'm all for legal migration. Everybody deserves a chance. But there's checks and balances for a reason. It's fiscally irresponsible for us to think that we're going to be able to afford to be the baby daddy of the world. It does not work like that. You import third world, you become third world.
Right. Okay. Well, guys, Univision, again, I'm out here with Anthony. Univision has requested an interview with Anthony, and I'm out here to document that. Again, like I said, I was having dinner with Anthony to discuss the arrest of the gentleman from the group that he is representing out there on the border, and he invited me out here to document this event. And this is very eye-opening. It's interesting to see. For your own eyes, it's interesting to see it. He's explaining to Univision about the video, about the fence that he showed all of us earlier today, where this is a weakness. There's a weakness here. If you look, that's that blue light, red light is the big X. I believe that's the big X in Juarez. And this fence is just a few feet away across their freeway. And and here's the fence Anthony was showing us earlier today. That it just opens right up. Where a body can fit through. Anthony's there you go. And the other side, if you look on the other side, you can see that the big fence, the actual solid metal fence is not closed. The motor's broken on it, so he can't close it, and it's too heavy for the agents to do it themselves. So, and I don't know how long that fence has been broken. I don't think Anthony asked how long it's been broken, but it clearly is malfunctioning. Otherwise, they would probably have it closed.
Little blazer, and they kept passing by, and then one of them even stopped on. That way, there's another lane that's going this way closer to us. Pararon ahí en la vía de la carretera, se bajaron del carro ellos mismos, corrieron en el canal, subieron aquí, entraron hasta acá, me dijeron, ¿me quedo? Dos. Dije, ¿qué le voy a decir? No, lárgate. O sea, me quedé callado. Y así, ahí viene la migra, porque sí venían. Todos los que estaban viendo el live estaban ya marcando al pobre Pacho. Así que ahí viene la migra, y tú, se regresaron hasta el carro, bro. Ahí dejaron el carro. Vinieron hasta acá, así. No sabían ni qué. Se regresaron al carro y se fueron.
Esa gente está acá.
Pues, no hay fence.
Ya no hay fence ahí.
No. No hay fence. Ahí nomás bajas tú directamente al canal. No hay nada. Aquí han estado pasando todo el día. Todo el día. Y desafortunadamente, nada de esto tiene ninguna gente. Ni una.
So if I understand, there's no agents that are going to be patrolling any of this area for the rest of the night. Anthony, is that correct? That there's going to be no agents patrolling this entire area?
There's no agents here for the rest of the night.
Because they got pulled off to go
Because all
do
agents
processing.
are doing processing and essentially working as correction officers, watching these individuals as they're being housed and fed and taken care of. Our agents are there feeding them and making sure that they're okay, making sure that they're getting that great treatment. If any of them have to go to medical or have any kind of medical needs beyond anything basic, they're at these facilities and they get taken to the hospitals by our agents, and they have our agents there babysit them at the hospital, and then back and forth. It's just a vicious cycle, man. It's just a vicious cycle. So here in a little bit, I'm positive we're gonna get some people trying to cross through here. So we'll just document that. That's all we can do at the end of the day. We're not Border Patrol agents. I can't be risking my life, and I don't even have insurance to be doing no job for Border Patrol. So we'll just sit here, document, and just show America how easy it is for anybody that wants to come. Just to come in.
Anthony,
Yes, ma'am.
¿me puedes explicar en cámara en español por qué es eso?
Okay.
All right, everyone, you're hearing what the situation is. It is what it is, right? I mean, here's a sign that sits right at this gate. Even that sign's about to fall off. they got a very low budget, I guess. Yes, this is Univision. I'm not too sure when they plan to air this. I can ask. Let me see if I can find out. Do you have an idea when this will be aired on the TV?
I'm shooting for Monday.
On Monday? And it's all over.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so the producer said it looks like it might be airing on Monday on Univision all over the country. The whole country should be seeing this video, this interview. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see what the results are going to be from that interview. Stay tuned to Anthony. I'm sure Anthony will be able to have more information. Again, I'm out here as on an invitation. I don't normally come out here because I don't. I interview all kinds of individuals, and if you're interested to see the Beto O'Rourke rally that we had in El Paso a few weeks ago, if you scroll down in my account, in my profile, you'll see that Beto O'Rourke video and some interviews I did with some of the people in the actual crowd to get their opinion on Beto and what he means to them. And if you scroll further, you'll see my coverage on the President Trump rally here a few months ago. So it's been pretty interesting. The political developments happening in El Paso. For so long, we had been isolated from the rest of the world. Nothing was happening. Unfortunately, what we're discussing tonight is what is happening in El Paso, which is unfortunate. El Paso is a great city, but this is unfortunate that this is the topic that we have to discuss now on the national stage. So we're going to see here if anybody wants to come across, maybe have some questions asked by Univision if we happen to see anyone crossing. Again, we are not the Border Patrol. We're not here to apprehend anyone. Just reporters being guided by Anthony here.
Sí.
For those of you not from El Paso, I don't know if you can see this. I doubt it. It's kind of dark. It's kind of dark here. But this is the this is our river. This is our great Rio Grande right here. I don't know if you can see, but there's not much water in there. And so the idea is that there's a big river between us and Mexico, but it's not dark at all. I mean, it's not deep at all. So I mean, just because there's a river here on your map doesn't necessarily mean there's actually water in the river. Don't get me wrong, when it rains, and sometimes we get those desert rains that just flood all at once, this canal does get full. But the majority of the year, it's not full. And also, a lot of this water is regulated from New Mexico. They regulate the amount of water that they allow through here because there's a lot of farming and ranching in New Mexico that they use it for irrigation, and then they allow it to come through every so often. And of course, there's a contract and all that having to do with that. So if it rains here, we get water in this river. If it doesn't rain here, we depend on the water coming from New Mexico, from Colorado, and so it comes down that way. So it's a challenge here. The Rio Grande is obviously a natural border, natural divider amongst us, between us and Mexico. But again, it's just geographical. It really doesn't serve much of a purpose when there's no water in it, because it's not an obstacle. But and you know, it depends on the situation. Like I said, this is a section here with a big wall. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of dark out here. And this is a section with the fence. So there's not too many people crossing here. Not typical. The only reason they cross is because that gate's broken, and they know it. But before this gate was here, before this fence was here, people would cross all the time here and just run right across again, because like I said, the river's not deep sometimes. But ever since the fence went up, there's been a lot less people crossing in these areas, so they end up getting funneled into these weak points, and that's how they make their way across. But you can see here, there's a busy road here, and certain times of the day, this road is really dangerous because it's typically it's a highway, and we call it the border highway. And during certain times of the day, this road is very busy, and so to cross it is almost like playing Frogger at times, depending on what time of day they're here. But it's typically they cross at night, and of course, it's a lot less traffic when they do. Question is, how do they know the gate's broken? Well, they have the coyotes that go up and down this area here, and so they're able to document where the weak points are on the fence. And if you know how it works, this whole border, let's not mistaken it, the whole border of Texas and Arizona and New Mexico and California. The Mexican government. The Mexican government. Here's some bags and stuff. Let me see if I can get the camera down there. Somebody's stuff that they just abandoned, with some clothes in the bag, some socks. Somebody just abandoned here. Back to what I was saying. Don't be misunderstanding. The border is secured by the cartel in Mexico, okay? If you're going to come through this border, you got to go through the cartel to get here. That's the fact. Everybody should know that by now. It's a cartel run situation. And there's no way around it because the cartel is powerful in Mexico. So the question remains is how do we resolve this? How do we stem the flow of migrants, and how do we help? I don't know if even the proper word is help. How do we? I don't know. I mean, it's a very tough discussion to have. I mean, we know that the problems that they have in the countries in the Northern Triangle in Central America. We know the situations that they have in their countries as far as employment and gangs and drugs. I've heard theories and different ideas on how to resolve it. Many ways. Okay, looks like we're finding some immigrants. Are they coming? I don't know if they're crossing or let's go over here and see what's going on. All right, guys, again, nobody's apprehending the immigrants. Univision is probably going to do a short interview to ask them some questions. Let's see what we have. Here's a family. It looks like a family of 6. Some little children. We've only been out here for probably 20 minutes, and we've ran into some immigrants. They're asking if they want some water, and they're going to give them some water.
¿Tuvieron miedo en algún momento de subir?
Sí. This particular area.
Cuando nos vieron aquí, ¿qué pensaron? Vamos a hablar con ellos.
All right, brother. I just wanted to give you a heads up, and I guess I'm gonna have my viewers start blowing up the phones away. All right, man. Hey, brother, can you do me a favor?
Yeah, the Border Patrol is going to be called. I'm already hearing the conversation with Anthony. You know, he is they are calling the Border Patrol now to help
Okay, cool.
come and detain these individuals.
I appreciate it. Alright guys, meanwhile you guys, we are at the same location, marker number 28, out here at
Bienvenida de Honduras.
They are from Honduras?
Sorry,
¿En qué lugar?
we're out here at the border highway.
Cuando pasaron ahorita,
Number
me dio
28.
mucho miedo.
¿Se
¿Se mojaron los pies o las piernas? Sí, los pies. Nada más cruzando. ¿Qué tan hondo está el agua?
Thus far, as of tonight, they've already
O sea,
had
llegó a los zapatos.
300.
Sí.
300.
O sea, que-
Lo que pasa es que el ritmo aquí, entonces agarramos Puerto Rico.
Claro, claro. ¿Y cuánto tiempo pasaron en Juárez para poder cruzar? Vieron tiempo en Juárez. ¿Había más familias que ustedes que piensan cruzar siguieron ustedes o no? ¿Venían ustedes solos en el camino? ¿Por qué entregarse a la patrulla y por qué no seguir? ¿Quieren hacerlo de manera legal como así? ¿Cuál es la
Sí, déjalo legal.
Me repite su nombre.
Marcelo,
Bienvenido. Gracias, gracias. Gracias. ¿Ustedes son una pareja también? No. Vienen diferentes. ¿De qué país son? Todos viven de Honduras. ¿Por qué mucha gente se está viniendo de Honduras? ¿Cuál es la razón?
He's asking them why they come, and they're saying there's violence. They're running from the violence.
How ironic, guys. She says there's no work. She says they're running out of jobs and that they're starving, but she's got an empty purse. Isn't that ironic? They don't have work.
Cada uno trae un niño, ¿no?
She says that they don't have work and that they're still
¿Dejaron esposo allá? ¿Tú? ¿Otros niños? ¿No? ¿Tú? ¿Señor? ¿Dejó su esposa a otros niños allá o no? ¿Dejó otros niños allá? No. Ella viene un poquito
So they don't have any work in Honduras? Is that what they're saying? There's no work at all?
No, the violence.
The violence is what they're running from.
They run from violence.
They're running from the violence.
Yeah.
And is the whole country in violence or sections of the country in violence?
La pregunta es, ¿está todo el país en violencia o es solamente algunas regiones del país que están sumergidas en la violencia? En Honduras.
La mayoría totalmente.
Most of the country is it's submerged in violence.
And is the government doing anything to
¿El gobierno
prevent
está
it?
haciendo algo para prevenir eso o no?
Y a veces es la misma policía.
Sometimes even the police it's engaged in crime.
So it's a cold, corrupt system over there.
Yeah.
Ask him what he thinks they can do to fix it. What can be done to fix it?
¿Qué se podría hacer para arreglar la situación allá en Honduras?
They've got a mucus that's going around to
Maybe the U.S. will step in and help. That might be a way to help.
So if the United States send, say, military troops, would the people of Venezuela or Honduras welcome them?
Si los Estados Unidos enviara tropas a Honduras, los darían bienvenida para asistir a eliminar la corrupción.
Sí, sí.
Yes.
Okay. So if we intervene, that they'll be okay with us intervening. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
First time I heard that.
Yeah, I
La
hadn't done.
señora may need some health care.
Yeah, you see how she's got that runny
Yeah,
nose? You
she's
gotta
sick.
be careful and don't get too close to him
Yeah.
because it's a big time.
Yeah.
It's very airborne.
Yeah,
It's very
yeah.
airborne and it's very
Stay down,
contagious.
stay upwind.
Try not to get too close.
Okay.
¿Podrían por favor ser tan amables para movernos al área donde estamos más seguros, por favor?
So the questions are interesting. The answers are interesting. If the question was if the American military sends troops, would the people of Honduras accept American military in their country to fix the problem? And the answer was yes. Is it something that America has to consider to resolve the problem? Is that something that American citizens would be willing to have done in order to stem the flow of migrants? Is it something in our interest to get involved in that capacity in Central America? And it wouldn't be only Honduras; it would have to be all three of the countries. I think that's a discussion worthy of having, because otherwise there's no resolution if we don't have that discussion of what the potential is for our country if we stand by and do nothing. And I'm not advocating for us to do that. I'm posing the question: what do you think as Americans? Is it something, after all you've seen with the immigrants coming, do you feel that our government should intervene militarily? And if so, to what extent should we intervene? But in the meantime, what is the solution? You know what? I have a question about trafficking. Maybe are they aware of how the trafficking works? You think they would say something about that? I'm curious, man, to see what they're. Anthony.
It's a crisis. It's not a challenge.
I have some. Can you ask them if they're familiar with the child trafficking that happens in the countries, and if they know how it works, and if they've seen it themselves with people they know, families they might have known?
Okay. ¿Ustedes han oído o no, a lo mejor experienciado por ustedes mismos abusos en lo que ustedes hicieron el camino hasta acá? ¿No vieron situaciones violentas o algún tipo de abuso que se le haya hecho a menores o a mujeres en el viaje que ustedes tuvieron hasta acá? No, gracias a Dios no. Qué bueno. So they didn't experience any kind of crime, they didn't experience any kind of situation, they didn't see any kind of...
Ask them if they got bussed up here, trucked up here, how they transferred up here.
¿Cuánto tiempo llevan viajando? ¿Más de un mes? ¿Más de un mes? ¿Y cómo fue que llegaron?
They don't want to answer that one. How did they get a bus? In a bus? Or a train?
So that they walked and they took the bus.
They walked and they took the bus. Were there people in Mexico feeding them, helping them?
¿Había gente que los ayudó en el camino para acá o cómo es que financiaron llegar hasta aquí?
No, they didn't help. No. So they said the people of Mexico didn't help them. Guys, this is I just me experiencing this firsthand. My concern is the children. I look at the children and I know they don't have an option. The children didn't have a choice. They were brought here. Clearly, this is a family unit. I mean, that they want to do something better in their country, in our country. But my biggest concern with all of this has always been child trafficking. Because these kids, not these particular, but the children get sold, they get traded, they get abused, they get put in our system, and they end up becoming victims of sexual abuse, child abuse. And if you know the statistics behind that, the odds of them succeeding and becoming prosperous in society is not good. It's impossible. Even Americans who are abused sexually or mentally have a hard time succeeding in our society. But when it comes to migrants that are being brought and sold over here,
Yes, sir.
We were just shooting a good news documentary, and we found this group of families.
the El Paso Police Department showed up, but no sign of Border Patrol, and they have been called. And that goes back to the idea that they're understaffed and they're not available.
I know
They're not available to come out.
there's no agents from Santa Fe. There's no agents covering the border all the way to America's Bridge. There's not one agent. So,
Anthony, can you ask them? Like one lady, somebody made a point here. They've been traveling for a month and they look clean. Where are they showering at?
yeah.
Let's find out.
Okay.
So we're gonna find out where they were taken care of, where they were cleaned.
Ok, dicen que han viajado más de un mes. ¿Dónde es donde se han estado durmiendo? ¿Dónde se pudieron bañar? Porque pues todos parecen estar bastante limpiecitos. ¿Dónde es que ustedes se hospedaron o dónde es que se estaban quedando? Yeah, they got that nucleus that they have going on in Tijuana too. I haven't had a youth system, but that nucleus is really bad. It's going around. That's cool, man.
So they don't have an answer to the question. They don't. Were they at a hotel? Were
¿Se
they
quedaron en el hotel en Juárez o cómo es que andan todos tan limpios ahorita? I asked them why or where they changed or why are they so clean instead of, since they've been traveling, like they said, over 30 days, they said that they just happen to have clean clothes and they changed, and that's how they're clean.
Are they afraid of the government, our government, taking their children away?
¿Ustedes no temen que los Estados Unidos les pueda quitar a los niños? No es algo que pensaron porque los están separando. Es que no quiero saber qué es lo que ustedes están pensando. O sea, no les importa que los separen de los niños porque no pueden pasar.
Sisters?
No, esta es tu pareja. Y eso es
Whose children are those?
¿Ella es tu hija? ¿Ella es tu hija?
They're not a couple. They're not a
¿Ustedes
couple.
no están juntos?
Oh, they're separated.
Okay, they're not a couple.
Okay, so these two are not a
This
couple.
is a kid. They are a family over here. This guy over here just happens to have a newborn to himself. Coincidentally enough, this guy's got a newborn.
So,
How convenient.
have they had any medical treatment though? They look. She looks sick. Is
Yeah,
she?
no, they have.
They haven't had any medical. Oh my gosh. All right, guys. So they traveled for a month.
For a month.
The mother, she has a cough of some kind of cold. It looks like, or something. She needs help. Like in the end, guys, we're all human beings. We need to help each other. We don't agree with what's being done, but I think they should be given medical treatment. But if they're not American citizens, perhaps they should be sent back to where they're from. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it is pretty windy out here. So they brought water for them.
¿Quieres que te traigan razón médica? ¿Segura? ¿Nadie necesita atención médica? ¿Usted? ¿No? ¿Ustedes?
Have they
I'm
encountered?
asking them if they need medical assistance. The police officer asked me to ask them.
And they said no.
Yeah, they said no.
Okay. Have they experienced any cartel on their whole trip that they are aware of?
Ustedes, no, en su viaje tan largo, no se encontraron con ningún tipo de carteles, nadie que los haya amenazado o ningún tipo de grupo así, más derechito, sin interrupciones, nomás llegaron. ¿Ah? No.
What do they want to happen next? What do they hope they happen?
¿Qué es lo que ustedes están esperando que siga después de esto?
Nosotros venimos huyendo de la violencia.
Vienes huyendo de la violencia. ¿Dónde está la mamá de la niña?
In Honduras. So he asked where the baby's mom is in Honduras.
Okay, pero I'm asking him, where is the baby's mom? Where is the mother of this child is what I'm asking him. And he says, okay, he says that the mom stayed behind Honduras and that he is raising her by himself.
Can you ask him why they decided to come here?
¿Qué es que ustedes viene a pedir asilo? He says he's here to ask for asylum.
He wants asylum from the violence in where he's from. So a gentleman his age, how old is he?
¿Cuántos años tiene usted? He's 27 years old.
Okay, and so a gentleman his age, are they coerced into the gang or do they have a choice?
A tus 27 años, tú como varón y decidir escapar y no pelear por tu país, ¿qué es lo que tú estás escapándote tú de allá? ¿Tú qué estás huyendo de allá? ¿Te querían meter a una pandilla? ¿Te querían golpear? ¿O qué exactamente estás huyendo? He says he's fleeing the insecurity over there. I'm asking him if he was being coerced or trying to be forced into a gang, and he says that no, he's just trying to flee the violence and that he wants asylum. To me, honestly, you ask me.
So there's the answer to that question. He wants to be here to flee the violence, but he is not being coerced into violence, and he's not being put in a situation where if he doesn't join, he's going to be hurt or harmed.
With grown men being put on my tax law, I don't agree with that. Okay.
So why they're here is they tried to cross. They clearly. Hey, did they come through this fence?
Yeah.
So they came through this fence that Anthony pointed out earlier that we showed you that has no security. And they tried to go across the road. And as I was explaining to you, sometimes it's too crazy over there that you can't get across. Okay? And so they ended up coming back this way to where we were able to see them and talk to them. The police department has been out here for, I would say, about 10 minutes now. We're waiting for the Border Patrol to arrive so they can provide some sort of aid to them and go ahead and take them into custody. And again, we asked if they were afraid that their children were going to be separated. They didn't really have an answer. No, they didn't express any fear about that. I think no matter what, you gotta. Humanity is something else. These are some brave individuals, no matter how you look at it. It's a brave person to go across countries, to come to the United States with no idea of where you're going to go when you get here. Well, this is what we're experiencing here, and it's guys. Let's not be a misunderstanding. This is not new. This is something that's been going on for a long time, for decades. The only problem is it's a huge influx now, because some entity, or there's got to be something happening that's drawing up here. Now, our congressman in El Paso, Veronica Escobar, and AOC up in New York said that the reason the immigrants are coming was because of global warming. That's a joke, right? That's got to be a joke, because the gentleman just said here they're fleeing violence. I don't know if they're flooding over there in their countries because of the ice melting, but they didn't even mention global warming or temperature change in their country as being the reason why they want to be here or they're fleeing. So I don't know why AOC and Veronica presented that to America. Can you ask them if they're having strange weather in their country?
Oh yeah, Veronica
Because
Escobar.
we want to see if that's what's going on. If that's why they're another reason.
Okay, Veronica Escobar claims that these people are fleeing their countries because of global warming and climate change. Let's find out. Es tropical, es frío, es calor, este tipo de cosas. Es caliente. ¿Qué es lo que se escucha más allá? ¿No? Allá tenemos el negocio es grande para el café allá.
Have they had strange weather the past few years?
¿Han tenido clima raro o alterado o huracanes o tornados
No. No strange weather. No strange weather. No change to the climate in Honduras, like Veronica Escobar said, and AOC has said. I don't know why they said that. I guess they want the Green Deal, the new Green Deal to happen, I guess. So to summarize what happened again, they came through the fence that Anthony pointed out earlier, and the Border Patrol agent said they can't fix it because they don't have the budget to fix. They tried to cross this freeway, this highway here, which they couldn't do because the obstacles on the other side and the traffic. So they came back. I don't know what they came back for. I guess they were going to continue to walking east on this road to find another way to cross. But it's interesting, the answers. I mean, they're fleeing the violence, and ultimately is what the conclusion is from their travels. They were asked if they wanted medical care, and they all said no. They all declined medical care. The mother of the family has a really bad cough. She may have some sort of upper respiratory issue. And the gentleman, of course, he's traveling with the baby by himself. he says that his wife is over there in Honduras, and so he came by himself. So I posed to everybody watching this video, what's the solution, guys? What is the solution to this situation? We can put a Band-Aid on it and put the wall up. That'll slow down some of it. But the underlying situation is still what it is. Those countries are broken. Whether they're here because of the violence, whether they're here because of global warming, which we know is not true, regardless of the reason they've traveled here, there's a reason that motivated them to travel here, whether it's freebies or not. How can we help, or what can America do? And if it's not America, who can do it to help these migrants not want to leave home? That's the only way we're going to solve this problem. Let's say they come all the way through Mexico and they're on the other side of this wall. Do you honestly believe they're not going to be able to cross a wall? Honestly, a wall. I've lived here for 40 years of my life. I've seen people cross this border in ways that you can't even imagine at this point. A wall won't stop them. It'll slow them down. That's all a wall is going to do, is slow them down. The cartels are powerful. I know you've seen the videos where the trucks have been stuck on top of the wall, and I know you've seen videos of the tunnels. So if you build a wall 40 foot high and you dig a tunnel 30 foot, put the wall 30 feet deep, you're still going to have gaps in the wall. They're still going to be able to find vulnerabilities. Yes, it'll slow them down quite a bit, but that's not solving the ultimate problem, the underlying problem, which is poverty. Clearly poverty, because they come here to be more prosperous. You know, yeah, we have a system here that might attract them because of the freebies. So I understand that argument. That argument makes sense. There's freebies here that they do get. They get medical care, they get housing, they get food, and you're right. It's like a magnet to people all over the world. So if we put up a wall, and they still are able to climb over it or around it or through it, whatever, what then do we do? What then is the solution if the wall does not solve the whole problem? For those of you who are saying it's not our problem, I'm sitting here in front of immigrants who are making it our problem. So it is our problem. Underneath it all, it does become our problem. You can't have a neighbor that lives next door to you abusing his wife and say it's not your problem, because that violence spills over in time in domestic violence in other areas. So if we say it's not our problem, that's not the case, because they're here on our doorstep. So it's becoming our problem. If the drunk neighbor is an alcoholic and he leaves his home and he bangs on your door, it's now your problem. How do you handle that problem? That's a very, very, very very simplistic approach to that situation. But we've been having this problem for decades. Kathy has a good point. Kathy says people from 50 countries were apprehended. Okay, that's interesting. If you have people from 50 countries who were apprehended, then are we the source of the problem? Then is our system uh, is our system the one attracting them here? Guys, understand the questions that I'm asking you are not because I don't know, are not because I'm ill-informed. The questions I'm asking you are designed to help us think through this whole scenario and really find where the core of the problem lies. If we say the core of the problem lies in their countries because of its poverty, wherever these countries are, okay, so be it. If we say the problem is our system that is designed to help people who are impoverished, okay, then now we have two sources of the problem. In order to solve any problem, we have to identify the core sources of those problems. Otherwise, we're never going to resolve the problem to begin with. If we put a wall and we put a military here, okay, granted, I'll give you that. If you put a wall with military along it, that makes us no different than China. That makes us no different than North Korea in that aspect of protecting the border. If that's something we have to do ultimately, that's something the politicians need to discuss and decide if that's the problem, if that's the solution. Granted, yeah, I mean, it works, right? It works. You put a border wall up and you put military in front of it, and yeah, nobody's going to cross that way. That's a fact. That would work. But is that something that we as Americans want to have happen? Because what we know from the elections, what do we know from the elections? We have half of the country that are Democrats, half of the country are Republicans. Well, not necessarily. You have, say, 35% on both sides and independents in the middle. Whenever you hear the discussion of putting military on the border, everybody, all the libertarians cry out, that's unconstitutional, because we cannot have the Americans patrolling our own country. If you hear it from the Republican side, the Republicans are all for having militarized border to ensure that nobody comes across. But if you listen to the Democrats, they think that's un-American. They think that has no compassion. There's no compassion in that. And then we have to deal with that. America is built on this concept of coming together with ideas to solve problems. I'm going to pose this. Are we too divided as a country to ever resolve this problem? Do you think the politicians cannot resolve this problem because of how the deep chasm between the two political ideologies in this country? We've been out here, I'm going to say, maybe an hour now, 45 minutes, and we have not seen anybody else come through this fence. Maybe the police car here with the flashing light is preventing that. Is it that simple? The Border Patrol, as I mentioned earlier in the video, the Border Patrol has been pulled away to do their own business. So this, oh, there you go. As I say it, Anthony. As I say it, we have some immigrants coming now, right through the weak spot. Here's some more coming in. So Anthony is translating for the police officer. Anthony's translating. Again, nobody's being apprehended. They're being talked to by the police. Got El Paso police officer here. Aiden.
¿De dónde vienen? Todos de Guatemala.
This family is from Guatemala here. The other one was from Honduras. So these are all members of the same family, Anthony?
They're all from Guatemala, but they're not all members of the same family.
Nah, they're not members of the same family.
Everybody's separate.
They're separate family. They're separate individuals.
So, ¿esta niña viene con usted, señor? Sí. Esa es su hija. ¿Y esa niña es su hija también? ¿Dónde está la mamá de la niña? ¿Se quedó la mamá de la niña en Guatemala? ¿Por qué? ¿Ah? ¿Está mala? Y por eso se quedó esa niña. ¿Y usted por qué? ¿Dónde está la mamá de la niña, señor?
Se quedó en Guatemala.
¿Por qué se quedó la mamá? Y si hay guerra, ¿por qué no lo ayudó a usted también a escapar? ¿Y por qué está la niña así? ¿Ah? ¿Por qué la mamá por qué no se vino mejor la mamá con la niña?
Es que no fuimos capaces de traerla.
Where are they going to go when they...
I'm asking him why he came here with a daughter. He says he doesn't have money to bring his wife, so conveniently he just brought himself and his daughter. And I'm asking him, well, why don't you just send your wife and the kid? I mean, don't be a selfish prick and just come over here with your wife at home. And he said that he'd rather come. His wife could not ask the trip.
And the lady in the back?
¿Y usted, señorita, viene sola nomás con el niño? ¿Nomás usted con el niño? ¿Y usted, señor, con quién viene? ¿Ese niño quién es? ¿Es su hijo? Sí. Oh, ok. ¿Y dónde está la mamá del niño? ¿Por qué se quedó la mamá?
Se quedó porque una para operar no tengo dinero.
Se quedó sin dinero. He says his wife has a tutor back in Guatemala, but he's traveling with that. And then this woman over here, she's traveling by herself with her son. That guy that I'm throwing the light on, he says his wife came home, and his wife has a tutor. He couldn't have dinner, so he just came over here and came by himself.
Where do they want...
He says he doesn't have money to bring his wife, so he's selfish and he left his wife rather than sending her and the daughter. He'd rather come up here with his kid. And then that guy says his wife is sick. She stayed home, so he just brought the daughter along over here. So,
what do they want to do in here?
¿A qué vienen ustedes? ¿Usted a qué viene, señor? Acá en los Estados Unidos. Por su hija. Ok. Pero ¿por qué viene a los Estados Unidos? He says he wants his daughter to study.
Okay.
¿Y usted? Okay, so he says he's poor. ¿Dónde? Un poquito español habla. ¿Usted, señor? Okay, he says that the money is not enough over there, so he wants to come over here and get some help. ¿Qué planea usted después de esta noche, después de que pase esta experiencia? ¿Qué son sus planes? ¿Tiene familiares acá en los Estados Unidos? Sí,
All right, we have the Border Patrol here. Finally, after 40 minutes, they have a van.
¿En dónde viven sus primos?
The other family is still sitting over there in the distance. And the new arrivals here
¿Usted tiene parientes acá, señor?
are here.
¿Dónde?
The Border Patrol agent has arrived.
He says he's got family members in Colombia. ¿Usted, señorita? ¿Usted tiene familia acá en los Estados Unidos? Oh, su esposo ya está acá. Hello, baby.
The Border Patrol agent is grabbing the key to unlock the broken fence. He's going to make the fence open, available, access, so the individuals can come in without damaging, getting injured. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 members. They're going to be entering the van. We have some more police officers arriving to help. Did they pay anything to get over here?
Yeah, no, they're not going to tell us.
Yeah, I know. They're... So the Border Patrol agent has secured. He secured the gate, as you can see here. He put the lug back on and sealed it up. So you can see there's no way they can get through. There's no way they can get through this fence. This is what happens in this location here. And he's bringing the other immigrants that we found first. There's more police officers that have joined here. One Border Patrol van to 1, 2, 3 police cars. There's 3 police units here and 1 Border Patrol vehicle that has arrived. They didn't search them to see if they had weapons. They just brought them right in and put them in the van. Again, I'm out here with Univision and with Anthony Ajuero. I was invited out here to see what is actually happening. And Anthony nailed it. He said that we would definitely find some immigrants at this location. And we found a bunch.
Nobody has contact?
No.
There's no dummy right now.
Do you see some more over there?
They're being dropped off over there.
Oh yeah, there's a big group over there. There's a
bouncer on the other side.
there's a big group over there. You probably can't see on the video, but there's a big number of. They're coming across now.
Here they come.
To the land of prosperity. I see. Have that guy stand by because he has. Yeah, you can see into here. There's a big group coming. They know this location. I'm wondering now if that big X was erected to be identifying mark for the immigrants to come to the right location, because it's right with a huge X. If you know what I'm talking about, if you're from El Paso, you know there's a huge X. I don't know how tall this thing is, but it's humongous. What I mean by X, it's a big architectural design that has an X with a big eyeball in the middle, almost like the all-seeing eye. And perhaps it's coincidence that this border crossing is just right here in vicinity to this big X. So maybe X marks the spot for the. Yes, the coyotes are dropping them off. As someone just mentioned, the coyotes know exactly where to drop them off. And this is consistent. And this is only El Paso, everybody. We've got the whole border. We got the whole border. The officers are going up there. Let me see if I can put this where you can see. This is only one part of our entire border. El Paso is a pretty big border with Mexico, but we have all McAllen, we have down south in Brownsville, we have California, Arizona, New Mexico. This is just a small example of what we experience. Univision came to do this interview with Anthony to catch footage of it happening, and they were not disappointed. They've got plenty of footage. Again, they're hoping the interview is aired on Monday, this coming Monday, which is only a few days. So they have a lot of film editing to do, or they can just put the entire footage on.
There's no water in there. There's no water in there.
So you can see. I don't know
would
if I
run
can
down
zoom in
and
here.
then run back up and just.
You see the people on the other side,
waiting there,
right in between the officers. Those are the immigrants that are coming across this way. They drop them off. They got the van over there.
So find out, guys. Where's Veronica Escobar? Bring her out here. She calls this a challenge. Why is she not meeting this challenge out here with you guys? Where's Veronica Escobar? Tag her. Share this to her wall, guys. This is a disgrace. But at the end of the day, El Paso's going to get what they voted for. This is what they voted for. This is what they're going to get.
So if you could see over here, the officers are inspecting the motor to the gate. to see if they can get it to engage it to have those doors shut. This is more than the Border Patrol attempted. The police officers are actually trying to resolve the problem at this particular location. Whether or not they can do it, I don't think they're equipped to repair the motor, but at least they're taking opportunity to try. I'm wondering, I think the Border Patrol agent that's driving this van is actually out there looking at the motor, trying to see if he can fix it. They're inspecting the gate to see what they can do.
They're literally just gonna sit there and wait.
They're gonna wait till everything clears
they're
up.
just gonna wait. It's gonna be a waiting game now. And while those people on the other side are waiting, more are gonna start to arrive. It's just a fact. The longer that we stay out here, the more people are gonna start getting stuck up on the other side. I just want to know if maybe Border Patrol can shut this gate by maybe pulling it with one of their trucks. They might need one of their trucks to pull it with a chain and actually close it with that these guys holding it together, maybe they're actually shut. Right. They're not being excited, regardless, it's been a long time. It's been a long time.
I remember back in the 80s and the 90s, early 90s, when immigrants would come, they would be afraid of being caught because they would be deported. I'm seeing a completely different scenario play out in front of me today. They don't fear being caught. Their goal is to be caught. And it's clearly to claim asylum. We did not have asylum back in the day when the people from Mexico were crossing. This was the days before NAFTA, guys. This was the day before the jobs left the region. People had work. People had homes that they were able to. The gang violence wasn't bad. The drug violence wasn't bad. Not nearly as bad as it is today. But today, people actually were coming back in the 80s and 90s to actually do odd jobs, sweep, mop, whatever, and send money back home. Today they bring their whole families. There's been a huge shift in policy that's essentially just inviting people here. And that's why we're seeing, this huge influx of immigrants. Non-stop, it looks like. If we stayed here all night, I'm sure we would catch probably 50 more by the end of the night. Probably more.
Since 7 o'clock tonight, there's already been 300 escapees from this particular area.
300 from this particular fence.
Oh, you're asking?
no sé.
No sirve el motor.
Sí.
No sirve el motor grande.
Me lo van a arreglar. So, I mean, we're just here. We're just here.
Since 7 p.m., Anthony tells me there have been 300 people coming through this gate right here. 300 since 7 p.m. here, our time. It is now 10:30 our time, El Paso time. So within 3 hours, there have been 300 people roughly that have come through this fence, according to Anthony's sources. This one spot in 3 hours.
No, but it's. You guys just be careful, because we're being calls from people. It's Saturday and it's pretty dangerous out here. I have to say.
We won't be out here today.
Yeah. Well, we can't go. I mean, until you guys, because there's a lot of drunk drivers out there. We're having accidents like crazy, guys. So I don't know how long you guys want to stay out here.
We'll probably be out here for maybe just about an hour. They actually flew into Florida today.
Okay. Okay, well, that's. Yeah, no, I got you. Guys.
You want to come closer to the. Would it help if we just park on the other side of this?
Maybe put you guys. Whether you're media or not, we're more worried about you guys' safety and here because you guys are media.
Looks like they are running back into Mexico. The ones who were there waiting to come across. That's a dangerous freeway they're crossing over there in Mexico also. But it looks like they've decided to put it on pause for the moment, maybe till all of the police activity dissipates over here. But we'll see if they do come down. But it looks like they're heading back into Mexico to maybe try another location or just wait till the blue and red lights stop flashing. Okay, looks like we're going to be going to another location that Anthony, I think, is going to take us to another spot. I guarantee you, once we leave here, they'll come running across. The migrants over there.
It's the Uber Patrol.
Anthony calls it the Uber Patrol. They're going to go be processed. Not sure how many are going to get through into staying in America or are going to be deported. Are we going to another spot, Anthony?
Yeah, we're going to a different location.
All right.
Guys, if y'all want to tune in here in the next 20, 30 minutes, we're going to a different location.
I'm going to keep the stream live for you guys to join us. We're going to go to another spot that Anthony's familiar with. And let's see if the same situation is happening over there.
Peace and love.
We're probably going to see the same thing we're seeing here. But this particular location is just wide open. There's nothing stopping them from coming through. The gate is not even secure. There's nothing preventing any crossing. So I mean, again, there's the big X right there, the X I was talking about, and they're crossing right across. I'm gonna jump in the car now. We're gonna take off to go to another spot with Anthony. I'm getting too old for this. All right, Univision again is with us doing interview with Anthony and getting footage. They're going to be airing this video across the country in all of the Univision markets. So all the major cities will have this interview and this experience to see and witness firsthand. And they'll be showing the interview with Anthony for more detailed information about what he has seen in the past few months that he's been out here. So where are we going, Anthony?
We are going to a different location where I can't even describe it. It's kind of by the water treatment plant center on the other side of the port of entry, the America's port of entry.
Okay, so we're going to be going, what, 20 miles from here?
No, I want to say like 8 to 10 miles from here. We'll be there in like 6-7 minutes.
So we're going to go, like Anthony said, about 8 to 10 miles from the location we're at. And again, we are riding, for those of you who are not in El Paso, we are riding on the border freeway, okay?
Border highway.
Border highway. Everything to my right, everything out this window is right across the border. So you see the lights on the fence. This is solid all the way across. There's areas in this fence, just like where we came from, so the Border Patrol vehicles can drive through. The problem is the spot where we were at, the fence is not functioning. The motor is not working. So they could just walk right through it. So we're going to exit here. So we're going to go all the way down here to this other spot.
It's actually a popular spot right here too. This one. No, it's the next one. It's Scarborough. It's the one after this. Usually we have guys out here lined up. But since...
So there's nobody on this particular spot at the moment. So Anthony, tell me.
Talk to me, brother.
We saw, what is it, a group of 20 total, roughly, what we just had. About 15 to 20.
Right.
In a matter of an hour that we were there. Right? Was it about an hour? 45 minutes?
Yeah, about 45 minutes.
All right.
Time frame.
Everybody we asked said they were fleeing violence.
Right.
That's what we're expected to hear from everybody.
Yes.
No one's gonna say anything different. Usually that's the script.
It's mind-boggling to me how it's grown almost viejito men, almost old. They're pretty old. They're much older than the kids. I mean, even I don't have a little kid like that. You know what I'm saying? And to be looking like you're 60 years old with an 8-year-old, it makes you wonder. Really, it makes you wonder. And that's why I kept pressing the guys, the grown men. Well, where's the kid's mom? You know, a kid should be with the mom always. It's in our nature. Why are you, an old man, carrying this little kid through the border?
What's going on here, dude?
I think Pasos.
Is that them, dude?
It is them, huh?
So it's interesting when we asked them. Yeah, that's probably not what you asked. When we asked all of the people in these two groups. When we asked the people in the first group, do they have any strange weather happening in Honduras? Is there any strange tornadoes, hurricanes, flooding, any of these things that might support the idea that global warming's causing the migration? No, the answer was no. There is no unusual weather happening. in those countries that's causing them to flee. I still don't quite understand where AOC and Veronica Escobar got that information from. But that's clearly not the case from them. They said they are leaving because they're fleeing violence. However, when we asked if they when we asked the men and the young boy, there was a boy in his, I would say in his late teens, mid to late teens.
Oh my goodness, a BP.
There's a border patrol vehicle here on the mound.
What?
That's the first one I've seen. Actually, that's the second border patrol vehicle I've seen on location. Well, take that back. The very first person we saw being apprehended was a Cuban gentleman, and he was in the camp that we first went to where the train tracks were. But he was called out to apprehend this Cuban gentleman, and the border patrol agent that arrived at the broken fence was also called out. But it took roughly 30 minutes, give or take, a little bit more, for him to actually arrive. The police officers were on site probably within 10 minutes of the first notice. And this Border Patrol vehicle that I saw on the mound is the first Border Patrol vehicle I've seen actually in a spot to monitor the border, the fencing here. I don't know if the space that he is sitting is a vulnerable area, but the fencing is pretty tall over here, just like it was over there, and I do not believe that gate was broken like the one that we just left is. And so we're pulling off here. There's another vehicle here.
I got action here.
It looks as if there's a Border Patrol agent. And this location, we're going to verify. This is another spot that looks vulnerable. I don't see the fence closed here. The fence looks like it's open. There is a vehicle here. There are two vehicles here. I don't know if these are pickup drivers. Looks like
Plates, get the plates.
Okay.
These nice plates.
There's no plates. There's no plates.
No plates.
Dude, there's no plates. This guy has the Texas plates. The first van had no plates. It looks like it's a pickup vehicle. This could be a dangerous situation here, because they don't want to get caught. They're getting ready to leave. Looks like they're leaving. Those two pickup vehicles.
Those are pickup vehicles.
Those two
Or they might have had people in that van already. They panicked.
So they took off because we saw them. They were getting ready to pick up a group here, and they fled when we recorded them. And the first vehicle had no plates. The second vehicle did have Texas plates. I don't know if I was able to get the plate ID on the video, but if we look at this here, it looks like the fence is open here as well. But this one is not even chain link closed. This one is wide open, but the metal fence, the big fence behind it, is closed. So perhaps they are coming from another route and coming through this weak spot here where it's open. So the question remains is, why is this particular fence open? And maybe there's Border Patrol vehicles in there patrolling, which is what they do sometimes.
This is for massive handcuffs here.
So this, Anthony's telling me,
All the usually Border Patrol doesn't carry that many. An individual doesn't carry many handcuffs. So then they come in here and they pull a bunch of handcuffs out of it.
so there's handcuffs in here, in this container. So that in case they have enough. So what does this tell you? It tells you that this is clearly a high traffic area, and they tend to make a lot of busts here. So they have to have a large amount of restraining devices here, since they probably don't carry enough themselves. So the drop point is here. They were setting up to pick up people. And when we saw them, they fled. Have you seen the pickup vehicles before, like this? Is it common? This is a common occurrence.
They usually never have their plates. They usually don't have plates, just like you just witnessed. That's why I said get the plates. And
one of the vehicles had plates. I don't know if I was able to get it on the video.
Any kind of plates that we get, I have a source that is piecing all of this together. So.
Okay. Okay, guys, this is the location Anthony wanted to show us, and yeah, he was right. Anthony knows this border probably better, just as well, if not better, than the Border Patrol itself. Okay, so this is the way it works. You can now see that we're able to come inside this. To my right here is a chain link fence with a little bit of barbed wire on top. And on the left is the tall metal fence. Now, they cannot climb this fence with their fingers. Okay? Let me turn on the light here. See if I can get some light on it.
What a lot of these guys do, they'll line up here at the border, and there'll be 300 of them, and they'll literally lay down, impeding Border Patrol agents from opening the gate or impeding Border Patrol agents from crossing through. It impedes the movement of Border Patrol. These guys lay all across the floor. They usually put the kids down here, giving Border Patrol no choice and making Border Patrol open this gently and bringing them in one at a time until they're all apprehended and shipped off. But this is a very, very active area in particular. Like I said, they don't have to be on this side of the fence to claim asylum. Keep in mind, they're already on American territory being on the other side of this fence. They've already stepped on U.S. ground, so they are eligible to request asylum. And once they're already out here, Border Patrol has to pick them up. They're our responsibility. Should be some water in there. There's no water in there.
Okay, guys, sorry if I lost connectivity. When I got too close to that fence, my signal drowned out. But again, we're with Univision out here. They're taking footage. They're going to be making a video. I don't know how long the special is going to be, but they plan hopefully to air it Monday night, this coming Monday. And it's going to be on all of their stations across the country and in Mexico.
The ACLU has been relentless attacking these guys. They were actually a little uncomfortable with me bringing you guys over there because we've given access to other camera crews in there, and they go in there and they just destroy everything that they're working on. They haven't had an incident where anybody has been hurt, not any kind of complaint of abuse. They actually have taken care of individuals, first aid kids. They've done a lot for these people that are coming over. Just like you with the water bottle, necesitan agua, or these guys will be carrying like a power bar and they see the kids and they pick it up. Like they're compassionate people too, you know what I mean?
So they didn't come to camp, they want to camp. Yeah.
But there's going to be actually 2-3 more stops. If we don't see anything really good, we'll go back to there.
And then in fact, the first place you stopped, they had that gate open, they had the workers on the other side. She said that she saw some group of people
Like on the street.
on the street. So we presume that they might have been undocumented too.
Yeah, I that area that we were at, there was since 7 o'clock tonight. There's already been 300 escapees. They're keeping. They see it on camera. They're just short-staffed. And unless people start calling, the only reason that guy showed up is because I have over 1,500 people watching my feed. So some of them get off the feed and they start calling Border Patrol. That's why they send me over. Otherwise, we would call the PIL to put a little heat on. Yeah. So we can continue down that way.
Okay.
And then 10:55, we'll go out there to camp and we'll stay out there till about 3:30.
You guys are getting some great footage.
Yeah.
I mean, who would have thought they had a state vehicle, like carry vehicles here, right, waiting for you? Did you get the video of that?
I think they did.
All right.
Yeah.
If not, I can send you this.
Please.
Okay. All right, guys, we're going to another location that Anthony is looking for some action over here. Again, we're not armed. None of us here are armed. We don't have any weapons with us that to do any harm to anybody with. We're just documenting the situation so that people around America and the country can see what's actually happening. It's important that we get this information out so that we can start to resolve this problem. Whether it's a wall, whether it's military, whether it's policy change within our own country, whether it's military intervention in a foreign country, whether it's some sort of some kind of strong arming the governments, Mexico. Who knows? The politicians are the ones that have the resources to solve this problem. Us as Americans, unfortunately, we vote for them to find solutions to problems, not to exacerbate them, or not to encourage them, or not to let them continue to exist. That's why we vote for representatives to take back to Washington, D.C. the concerns of our districts. If the goal is not to protect our nation from an influx of undocumented immigrants, then what is the government ultimate purpose today? What exactly are they supposed to do? Why even have representatives go to Washington if they're not going to listen to the constituents? That's something that the government has. They have to listen to the people. They have to see and react. But as we all know, money talks, and somebody's getting paid quite a bit to not do anything. They literally pulled the Border Patrol off of their assigned posts tonight so that they can go back and work with processing. Because they don't have enough agents to actually be out here to patrol. So we're moving along again, another few miles. Every so many miles, there's a gate that can cross, like the one we were just at and the one we were at previously. It's so the Border Patrol can take their vehicles. Yeah, the Border Patrol can get in there with their vehicles and patrol up and down. That's only happens when we have Border Patrol agents available to do that kind of thing. And clearly, we don't have any available to do that tonight. We saw one Border Patrol agent just a mile up down the road. I wonder if he knew those vehicles were sitting at that spot, the pickup point, and he did not turn around to go contact them or to chase them away. I wonder, there are cameras. There's cameras so many miles apart also that you can't see because it's dark, but there are cameras. So they can communicate with their agents that are out here. But if there was an agent and we passed that agent, that Border Patrol vehicle sitting on the top of the mound, and then just a mile and a half down the road or 2 miles, there was a pickup point where two vehicles were established waiting for, I don't know if they're waiting for somebody within the next 10 minutes, or if they were just waiting there like a taxi cab does at the airport for anybody to show up, or were they drug mules that are waiting for a delivery somehow? I don't know. I'm not familiar with their tactics, but any of these are possibilities. I know they weren't sitting there just to take a break from their long travels along this across the country. So, in our conversation and in your comments, when I posed the question, how do we fix it? Everybody said, build a wall. The majority of you guys said, build a wall, and that'll stop them. Build a wall, and that'll stop them. Okay.
Nope.
We have a president that's wanting to build the wall, and we have a Congress that is not in full support of that idea. So who do we think the source of the problem is here? Now, it's not our president. It must be Congress. And if Congress is the problem, is the source of the solution, they have the solution, the capabilities of solving this. Mr. Sam Williams was running for Congress, and Mr. Rick Seeberger was running for Congress here in El Paso in 2018. Both of them provided very, very good solutions to these problems. Of course, being walls in areas where we need walls, and providing technology to help out with that, along with a bunch more agents, Border Patrol individuals. In El Paso, nobody, of course, El Paso is a majority Democrat city. We're about 70 to 80% a Democrat city. What do we have here?
People just crossing over.
People crossing over. Oh, this is a legal crossing. Yeah. Okay. So again, El Paso is 70% to 80%, give or take, Democratic voters, and they voted for Veronica Escobar to be our congresswoman. Never once, though. I remember, because I was involved with Sam Williams' campaign in a very intimate capacity in his campaign team, and so I experienced all of the debates, all of the interactions between the three candidates. Actually, there was 4 candidates. We had another independent, Ben Mendoza. Out of the 4 candidates, Veronica's the only one who never said anything about a wall. The other 3 candidates said we do need walls, but the Democratic candidate in El Paso didn't mention that. It's curious, right? I don't quite understand the Democrats' policy as to why they don't want to reinforce the border. I don't quite understand it. What I'm hearing from you guys is it's because they're bringing in new voters. And that's very likely. That's very possible. Their offspring will be American citizens, that are born here. They're traditionally going to follow the Democratic Party line. So in about 18 to 20 years, the newborns who are American citizens are going to be newborn children are going to be American citizens. So that must be what they're attempting to accomplish. Because I don't understand any reason why they would not try to resolve this problem. Anthony, where are we headed now?
We are headed to a particular area where, kind of next to the water treatment facility out here in the far east side of town, a few miles away from the America's port of entry. For some of you that have been following my work since last year. This is the area where I came out here and I fed the group of hungry migrants that were on the other side of the fence. For 3 days, I was out here feeding them, bringing them water, and sharing information with them as far as the policies that were in place back then and how children were being separated from their parents because they were. And a little more than half the group that I was dealing with actually decided to pack their stuff up and go home.
So when presented with the option to go home, they said they were going to go home? Or
they actually asked me to help them find a way to get out of that particular area because they were on American soil, but they did not want to step back onto Mexico soil because then they would get arrested for illegally being in Mexico.
Okay, did you guys hear that? So Andy was helping Anthony was feeding some immigrants here, and they decided to change their mind and go home. But since they were already on American soil, they were asking for Anthony for another way to go home, because if they stepped foot in Mexican soil, they would be arrested for breaking immigration law in Mexico. That's some backwards stuff. That's as backwards as it gets.
Yeah.
It's shocking to hear that story, because how the hell did they get in there to begin with? They must have crossed illegally to begin with. So, but they claimed they were afraid to go back because they would be arrested for being there illegally. Okay, so we're at a location here next to the water treatment plant.
Oh, snap, I should have gone that way. That's alright, we'll walk. We'll have them walk for a little bit.
How far, dude?
You
don't want to go too far.
I'm going all the way to the fence over there. They come over here and they just come and wait to get apprehended, bring themselves in. And here at a distance, you could see a border patrol agent or maybe a police officer out there. Is it safe to bring these people here now? Yeah. Yeah, see, I'm bringing them to the much safer areas. Here's the canal. Money. Yeah, money. All right.
So we're driving along the canal, the one you guys saw in the other videos. I mean, earlier in the video, with the water in it. This is another piece of it. It's the same canal that we're driving down.
Walk up to the fence because people usually try to shelter themselves with that tree that you see at the distance. They usually cuddle up under that tree and they gather there until border patrol comes through and picks them up. So we have to walk from here.
How long does it take the police or the border patrol to get to this spot if we had to call?
Probably about the same. They're just as busy. It's the same sector.
Hi, Beverly. We're out in a really. Let me see what my signal strength is. I got full strength here. reminder of what's happening here. I'm out here with Anthony. My name is Ben Cornavale. I was invited out here by Anthony to document this event. We have the Univision television station doing a documentary on the situation, and they caught wind of Anthony's videos, and they asked him to come out and escort them around while they film, get footage, etc. And I came out here with Anthony to document for Anthony what's happening here. And we're getting ready to cross the canal on a little fence. So there's a tree up here that Anthony says what happens is the immigrants, they'll wait. They'll gather under this tree. So what happens is the wind blows, and you can't hear me in the mic. That's great. We're in an open area now, so bear with me, guys, with the wind. We're walking up toward that metal fencing that we had on the other side where the motor was broken. It has the same fencing. Anthony is looking for people with his flashlight. He says they like to congregate by this tree. So as you can see here, we're at the fencing again. And what are we looking for, Anthony?
Okay, so in this particular area, it's the same situation. They don't have to be on this side of the wall to claim asylum. As long as they're over here right on the outskirts, they're already on American soil. So here I've witnessed groups of 400 or 500 at a time, all laying around this particular tree, waiting to get picked up by Border Patrol. And then Border Patrol comes through here and gets them through it right here.
There's nothing there. I don't see anybody.
This is a very common area for them to come and just lay out. They literally just lay out here, and then Border Patrol is forced to come remove them and apprehend them.
So they just sit out here for hours until the Border Patrol agent finds them?
Days.
Days?
2-3 days. And the women and children, some men usually stay behind, and then while other men go and get water and food, but nonetheless they stay here in this particular area, because even if they're on the other side of this fence, as long as they're within a close proximity, like to where that tree is, they might, your audience might not be able to tell, but it's fairly close to the fence. So as long as they're within this proximity right here in this particular area, they're already on American soil, so they just lay out here and wait until Border Patrol comes and picks them up. I mean,
so if you can see up here, I'm at the top of the fence. There's a tree up here. There's the top of the tree. Okay, so what Anthony's saying is that this tree, I don't know if you can see the silhouette or not because of the fencing. There's a tree here on the other side of this fence. And what happens is they lay down at the bottom here. They lay on the bottom. Oh man, let me get this camera. So they lay down here at the bottom on that side of the fence, and they just wait. They just wait for Border Patrol to arrive. And if the Border Patrol arrives, they pick them up and they bring them in because, as Anthony said, they are on American soil. So they don't even have to cross the fence. They just have to be on that side of the fence to be on American soil.
The one that was killed last year, remember?
The Border Patrol agent.
The one in Van Horn, right there.
The one who was hit with rocks?
Yeah.
a car could have passed by and knocked them off the road type of deal.
Yeah.
Lots of people would kill me. I don't know, I think.
Sorry, that story. It gets dark at night here, and over there it's dark.
Yeah. This particular location, like I said, was over 100 people on there at one time. I guess the word travels along over there quick, so they got that gate from home. The locals are just there guarding and making sure nobody is using that propia. Creen como que es de ellos, so they don't let anybody else in.
Terrible that they hit you with that close the gate.
They was actually trying, you know what I mean? But
What gate? That's not a gate.
and it's sad for the people too, you know what I mean? You feel bad for these people, but at the same time, there's not enough resources for us to take care of the world. At the end of the day, they're taking food from the table of my daughter. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna, I can barely make ends meet. You'll have to continue even working more hours to support grown men. So hay que las mujeres, niños, por la mayoría son hombres. ¿Sí? Porque se les hace más fácil.
Pero
bodies. They find the bodies in here and they try to cross. When it rains real hard, they try to cross. And that's a hard current there. They've caught many people. Just stop. They cannot fight that. Are we heading to another spot? Go back? Okay. We're to the open gate. All right, guys, we're going to go to another location. Where are we going, bro?
Back to the wall, bro.
Back to the wall. Which is that? Which is which one?
Napra.
Oh, we're going back over to Napra there? All right. To the camp?
Yeah.
All right. What are we going to see at the camp?
You're probably gonna get a lot more action out there than we're gonna be.
Was that right?
Yeah.
It's because why is that? It's more dark. It's more
It's
obscure.
It's much bigger. Much bigger, and there's just a lot of coyote action out there.
Okay. All right, guys, we're gonna go back to the original place that we started, where the camp was. There's where the gentleman was arrested. Is that the spot where they arrested him from?
Yeah, the female Colombian woman or Brazilian or wherever she was from when we first got there. Yeah, it was a woman, not a guy.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That was the Cuban.
Yeah.
Okay. My apologies. I was wrong. The first person we saw apprehended was a Cuban female that they apprehended. She was by herself. There was nobody else with her. So that was interesting. Okay, so we're going to go through here. There was nobody here at this location, which was surprising.
It's a hit or miss.
Yeah, this one is a hit or miss. But every location Anthony has pointed out in this entire video, yeah, there was action in those areas. And again, I've been here for 40 years, guys. In El Paso, 40 years, and I've never seen activity at this level. I've seen activity. I've seen, family here, family there. But what we're seeing now is something I never imagined I would see in my lifetime over here in this part of the country. Which is sad. It's sad, but at the same time, what these people are experiencing themselves in their own countries is sad for them to be coming so far away to live here. So I get it. America's a great country, but yeah, it's definitely a problem. It's like Anthony said. We got to follow laws. That's why we have laws in societies. Laws help keep society in order, and when you violate those laws, there's no order. And if there's no order and laws are not being enforced, then that means we have a failure of the system somewhere. And again, Sam Williams, when he ran for Congress as an independent, his philosophy was simple. The Republicans aren't going to fix this, and the Democrats are not going to fix this. Both of those parties apparently need this issue to get voters to the voting booth. Independents have the potential to fix the problem by partnering up with one of the two parties if there's enough independents in office. But the country's divided. The country's divided right down the middle. And because the country is divided down the middle politically, you're going to have a tug of war. And politicians love tug of war. The parties love the tug of war. It's almost as if it's an illusion of democracy or an illusion of the republic, because the representatives are not doing and are not fighting for the things that the people are asking. The worst part is we elect these individuals to represent us with the hopes that they are going to take our message, but when your representative is not concerned with a part of the constituency that has concerns about the immigration laws and the situation on the border, what do you do at that point? In a city like El Paso that's majority Democrat, those on the right and the Republican side who want to secure the border, their voice is silent. So they're a little bit well, they're getting a lot more irritated by the situation when they don't have their voice, when they don't have a voice because their representative has decided to only deliver one part of the voice to Congress. So we have a broken Congress. But even my friends on the Republican side, I asked them, where the hell is Ted Cruz? Where the hell is Cornyn? Why are they not fighting enough? Why are they not speaking up louder? Why are the Republicans always seeming like they're afraid to make a move on anything? Why does it seem when the Democrats, when the Republicans held the House and the Senate, why couldn't they fix this problem just a few months ago after Trump got elected, before the 2018 midterms? So it's not only the Democrats' fault, it's the Republicans' fault as well. And if we choose to not accept that, then we're not seeing the whole picture of what the problem is. We have to do something about this broken Congress. If Republicans across this country are insisting on fixing this system, where are their voices? And it goes for every issue. What are we seeing now concerning abortion? What do we have with abortion? You don't have anybody in Congress trying to do anything regarding to counter the abortion, but you have the states picking up the slack. You have certain states limiting abortion rights, if you will. They're handling it at the state level. Why is the state of Texas not handling this border issue? Is it because it's a federal issue? There's a problem here in this country at our congressional level. We have a president that wants to fix the border situation. His idea of a border wall is what he ran on for his platform. And now we have a situation where he's asking for it, but Congress isn't doing much to get it to him. Shauna Smith is saying, why hasn't Governor Abbott done more? Republicans, you need to...
Governor Abbott claims that there is no crisis at the border. Governor Abbott, when I've spoken to him, he does not want to touch the immigration reform issue until the 2020 elections. And that's me speaking to him directly.
So Anthony's relaying a message from Governor Abbott that said he does not want to do anything about border or immigration until after the 2020 election. I don't understand. I don't understand why our representatives, even at the state level, are failing us. Do you have an extra power cable? Can I turn on this light? Do you have this light? All right, guys, I got to do some magic. My battery's dying here. Give me a second. Don't go anywhere. I'm gonna restructure this thing. second. All right, guys, I'm back. Okay, back to my questions concerning government. We don't have our senators of Texas speaking out. We have the governor of New Mexico pulling off the who the hell did they pull off the border? Not the guard or
the National Guard.
So the New Mexico governor pulled off the National Guard.
He's helping them taking the Patriots.
So he's assisting in helping have the Patriots removed. The state of Arizona has a no cross zone for American citizens in the southern part of the Arizona desert. California is lost completely, and Texas is just a figment of our imagination when it comes to border security. So knowing that's the case, exposing what's happening here or documenting it, what's the purpose of
There's a car right there. I don't know if it's a border patrol
I see.
or a car.
Waiting for pickup. Yeah, we can see a car over here.
Looks like a border patrol.
Yeah, it looks like it's on that side of the fence. Yeah. All right, guys. So we're gonna head out to the verse again. We're heading out to the first place that we started a few hours ago, and that's in the Napra area. And we're gonna go out there where the Patriots are camped out, keeping watch. Okay, guys, again, let me remind you guys what's happening here. I met with Anthony for a short dinner to discuss the arrest of the gentleman earlier on the felony of carrying a weapon. At least that's what... Yeah. The gentleman that got arrested, I wanted to hear Anthony's take. This is my first time out here, and most likely my last time out here with Anthony to see what's going on, to document. Anthony invited me out here to accompany him because Univision is doing an interview that they're going to be airing, hopefully they said Monday night, across all the Univision channels and across the country, and probably Mexico also. And I'm out here documenting for Anthony his interviews, so that we can make sure that. No, I was curious to see what goes on. I've seen his videos before. It's a pretty dangerous situation that he puts himself in every night, so that he can show what's actually happening out here, because the media is not showing anybody. I'm involved with a lot of different groups. Again, I was at the Beto O'Rourke rally to interview those folks to get their an idea of what their approach to Beto was and what they felt he brought to the table. And if you look on my profile, you can scroll down and see. You can watch that video. For the first, I want to say 30 minutes is interviews, and then after that is just Beto talking, and you'll see some Republicans chanting in the video also, and So it's an interesting video to watch because you can see the psychology and the approach to Beto O'Rourke that the local Democrats here in El Paso have. So this is just another piece of the puzzle, another documentation of what's happening in El Paso. Now that we're essentially the center of the United States, ground zero for this immigration situation. Unfortunately, we're under, El Paso's on the map for the wrong reasons. Some in society think that El Paso is a good thing for immigration, and some in society, in American society, feel that El Paso is being exploited by the immigrants and by the government. So that's for America to decide. We can see what's happening here clearly. Is people are entering the country illegally and looking for asylum. One of the when we caught the first group of people, when we encountered them, when we caught them crossing back across the freeway, the border highway we're on right now, we asked very specific questions. Why did you leave home? And their answer was violence, fleeing violence. Again, we asked them, did they have any issues with weather? Was there any hurricanes, tornadoes, etc. happening in Honduras, happening in Guatemala, happening in El Salvador? Was there any flooding, strange weather patterns that they saw that caused them to fear living in those countries because of global warming? And they said no. And then we asked them, what are their intentions here? And we had different answers. Educate their children, find work. Typical answers you would expect from anyone who immigrates from one location to a better, prosperous area. So they're not unusual answers, and like many of you said, they could be rehearsed. Those could be rehearsed answers. They could be sincere answers. It's up to
some of these guys are actually already out here on the road, trying to run into the community. So.
What is that purple thing?
That's the X.
Okay, so do you guys see that purple light ahead of me? That purple light is that big X in the Mexico side where we were at momentarily earlier. That's the big X that marks the spot. I don't know if you can see it clear here, but it's a big X with an eyeball right in the center of it. If you look up, what is it called? What do they call it?
I have no idea.
If you look up Ciudad Juarez and put X, or look up Juarez and put X in Google, you'll see what it looks like. There's a big eyeball in the middle of it. It's almost like an Illuminati symbol. Yeah, it's like an Illuminati symbol. You know? So, I mean, it's very unusual looking at. This is the area where the fence is open. I don't see any people there at the moment. There. So we didn't see any action there. We're going to go to Anapra, which is the very first spot that we started at. If we're breaking up, guys, we're changing towers, and we're going to be going into an area that's not the greatest signal strength because it is in the middle of the desert. So hopefully you guys can stay viewing, and let's see if we guys can maintain. I'm running low on power, but we probably got about 30 more minutes.
Yeah. I you know what?
Probably less.
The guys are telling me that they don't want us over there right now.
Oh, okay.
Because of everything that happened earlier.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
We might just call it off.
yeah, I'm just gonna stop by right here downtown because they're staying by my house.
Oh, okay. All right, guys. We're not going to an opera. The Patriots asked us not to return to the site because of what happened earlier today with the arrest of one of their colleagues. So I'm going to go ahead and conclude this broadcast. And again, my name is Ben Carnevale. I'm out here with Anthony Ajuero, Conservative Anthony, documenting this event, the Univision interview that, again, will be airing sometime on Monday. That's what they told me. So let's see if that actually comes to pass. I know they will air it. It's just a matter of when they get it off out of the editing room and put it together. I don't know how long the special is going to be. It could be an hour. It could be 5 minutes. It all depends on the producers and what they feel. The data that they recorded, the footage is.
Keep in mind, the only reason I agreed to this interview, I don't do mainstream media. I constantly turn down mainstream media reports. They're constantly reaching out. However, the main producer, which she is the main producer for Univision, she came out and she actually reached out to me prior to her flying in from Miami, explaining to me how she herself is a legal immigrant from Cuba, and she does not appreciate all of this that is happening. And I told her, you know what, I was still a little iffy, and what really convinced me was the reporter that is doing the interviews with me. He actually is the only Univision reporter that Ted Cruz has sat down with. So that's why I agreed to do this interview. And so we're also documenting it in case they try to twist it or turn it. That way we have firsthand what is being actually presented and what's really being said, in case for whatever reason they don't do a good job with it.
Yeah, so Anthony, again, he invited me out here to experience what he sees, and I joined him because it was an interesting invitation. And there's another event coming up that I will be attending that has to do with child separation from the parents. It's another group in El Paso who's going to be having some events somewhere soon, and hopefully I can be there and share footage and share information about this particular group, so we can hear their perspective as well. Again, it's all in the name of documenting what's happening on the border here, what's happening in our region, so that the rest of the country can understand both sides of the story here. I myself, for those of you who might be interested, if you haven't seen my profile, I'm an independent. I'm a conservative-leaning independent. I have certain issues with immigration. I have a lot of issues with children being trafficked, which is one reason I want immigration to be under control, because I have done very thorough research on child pornography and child trafficking. And for those of you who have never experienced child trafficking and studied what happens to a poor child who's being physically and sexually abused, I don't encourage you to do so, but it's not something you want to experience in your own life. And these children who are being brought, a lot of them are being sexually exploited and put in our foster systems and manipulated and abused. And when I see children like we saw tonight, I don't know if those children belong to those families. And that concerns me greatly because I know what happens to those children. I've seen it with my own eyes. And it's not it's not fun. It's not nice. Let me just leave it at that. So guys, I appreciate you watching my stream. I appreciate you sharing it. I am not Anthony, clearly. Anthony is a very hardworking individual that simply wants to document the situation. Again, I was invited out here to see Anthony and to experience his experience, and it did open some eyes to me. But again, I've lived here in El Paso for 40 years. Seeing illegal immigration is not new to me. Seeing how many and from the countries that they are from is new to me. So again, thank you guys. I appreciate it. And if you want to see another video coming up in a few weeks concerning those who are in protest against child separation, go ahead and follow me, or go ahead and send me a friend request. I'm happy to accept. I'm not as into video streaming as Anthony, and I do a lot of local politics stuff, which is going to be coming out here if you are in El Paso, because I have a lot of issues with our local government. That's another story. But again, thank you guys for watching. I am a Christian, so God bless you all, and I hope you have a blessed Easter, and let's celebrate our Christ and the sacrifice that he made for us, and celebrate the triumph of his rising again. And just be safe, guys, and hopefully I'll hear from you guys and see more of you watching videos and streams down the road. God bless you guys, and I'm out.